are here and we'll get started. So I'd like to call this meeting to order at 5 p.m. This is a special meeting of the Groton Beautification Committee with our very special guest, Kevin Fitzgerald. And another special guest, Peter Woods, who's going to be doing some of the work for us. And committee members and supporters, and I'm glad to have everyone here to get some information on what how we're gonna implement the ARPA projects. So take it away.
The town council awarded $10,000 to two projects, $10,000 each,
Right.
for the Groton Beautification Committee. The first is a arts community placemaking initiative. So there's proposals to have murals or sculptures installed around the town.
Is it both murals and or sculptures?
In the application, it gives kind of like a
Oh,
an option.
That was one of our big questions. I didn't read the entire thing because I expected Bruce was is the expert, so I just figured he would. Okay.
It doesn't identify like a set location.
Okay.
But that would be part of the project planning, is just identifying if there was if you wanted to go in one project or you wanted to do multiple
Okay.
sites.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Bruce was talking about maybe doing some sculptures,
Right.
various sites. Okay,
Right.
so now I can see why he was doing that.
Exactly. Because I was like, well, you can't, if you ask for murals, you can't do sculptures, but if you have both, then that's great. Okay.
and it just kind of even on the pricing outside of determining how many of those kind of sub projects within it, and then building out the timeline of going for, say, project one, and then strategically project two down the line, when you're ensuring that you have the funding to carry out the first kind of sub project.
Okay. Right. So you're not doing three at once, kind of in stepwise fashion.
Yeah, and I have, this is a component of the agreement that the recipients are signing with the town, and it just builds out the budgeted timeline of when certain funds are expended for planning or the construction. This one doesn't include those sub phases, say if there were to be 2 or 3 projects, but it just sets kind of the timeline on our kind of master action tracker,
Okay.
when we would have these released on the reimbursement basis.
Okay. All right. Because that's one of the biggest, so we can talk about both things in general right now, because actually that was this one, the murals and sculptures is one thing, but like for Pete, I thought, his thing is when you go in and do a landscape plan, you go in there and you do it. It's not like over X number of months. It's kind of get in there. He's going to have all his workers doing it, tidy up, and there might be a couple little adjustments, but it's pretty much start.
The installation is quick.
Yes.
The aftercare, if there's any time involved in anything, it would be any kind of aftercare,
Mhm.
whether that's through somebody outside of the town or within the town. That's something that will have a longer window. to
Right.
it.
Right. And on this plan, would you have an approximate amount of time that it would take to install it? This,
It would take a day to prep,
uh-huh.
and basically a day to put it together.
Okay.
So, but I think I'd give yourself a 3-day window to, kind of just get it right.
Yep.
It's not
Okay.
too bad.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what I was really interested in. If it's a project that we have funds, $10,000 of funds. Hi, come on in. And how you have to, it's not like building a house where you have to get a certain part to get it released, or it's like, he's gonna do this probably no more than a week. How does he get, I just want to make sure he can be reimbursed like for the whole thing.
Well, we would just be kind of submitting those, like the itemized budget with it. So because
Yeah.
if it's an internal project, we would
Yeah.
have the flexibility to say, here's the submitted budget, we can release the funding from here, and just having the certification of what we'd be really spending the money for. And
Okay.
then, where otherwise, if it was, say, a nonprofit or an external one, it would require a little more on the prep work to say, we're releasing the funds after we've seen the work, or we have enough evidence in place to show what the money is gonna
Yeah.
go towards.
Right. Well,
Sit
usually I
with
think
the
you
bid.
get paid at the end of the project anyways, right? But not 3 months later. I mean, like very soon
So-
afterwards, I would hope.
Honest answer, not typically, but when somebody makes you aware that the payment's gonna be slow, it kind of makes it okay.
Okay.
You know, you always want to be paid as soon as you can, but when somebody says, we really want you to do this, but just so you know, it might take 3 months for the money to come in, at least you're prepared for it.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
Yeah.
you know,
I
It
was,
wouldn't
A
take
local
the 3
person,
months.
you know,
Yeah.
you also want to give back to the town a little bit too, so you're not gonna have any pushback. But
right, but that doesn't seem like a reasonable amount to wait for this type of project. If we have all our ducks in the row and it's installed and implanted there, you know. It's not like a mural or a sculpture that could potentially take a little longer to go through. In my opinion.
No, that's right. And we have the sub account already created, so we would just put it into the Munis system that the town uses for tracking expenditures,
Yes,
and
yes.
it would be pretty.
Yeah, it's
Kind of
quick.
point to
Once
point from
it's,
there.
yeah, right, okay, all right, okay. Well, since Bruce isn't here, could we just like focus on this landscaping piece right
Yeah.
now? And although I just kind of cut you off, did you have other things
no,
you
no.
wanted to say? I tend to talk a lot, so pull me back if, but this is very interesting. So the, this plan, the ARPA plan was actually written for closer to 15,000, but we only received 10. So they had planned to scale it back. One of the things that was brought up that we could scale potentially back on is the watering, not the watering, the irrigation system. But those of us here who've been working on the beautification committee have done a lot of hand watering. And to me, it's not a sustainable way of keeping unless you have a planter right outside the front door and I can get the lovely Betsy McAusher to water it for me every other day. I'm wondering if we can do the opposite, put in the irrigation and do a partial plan. You know, is that something that's permissible? Like, instead of saying, like, you can plant all these plants, but I'm not gonna put in the irrigation. So there's.
Can I give you my thoughts on this? When
Yes.
Bruce presented this to me, I played with the numbers a little bit, and and a lot of times people have requested me to come in and do the seasonal color, and there's just no water. And just for that reason, I said, look, you can't rely on somebody saying, I'll water. You get 2 or 3 months in the summertime, you get one of those dry years, it just
Last
doesn't
year.
work. And it only takes 2 days for somebody not to water, the whole thing to fall apart. It never quite recovers.
Mhm.
So I've told people in the past, let's put the money into the irrigation this year. Well, it'll be okay. But
Uh-huh.
next year, you're gonna get your Disney World. Just be patient. It's the right way to do it, and
Uh-huh.
work with the budget,
Yeah.
and that's the way we've gone.
Yeah.
And it's worked just fine. In this case, when Bruce asked me, the irrigation was gonna take up enough of a chunk, the money, the funds that were available, plus the site prep, just to get it ready for planting,
Uh-huh.
didn't leave us much. And I didn't
Uh-huh.
want to go through all that work and with people's eyes on it and say, this is what we did.
Uh-huh.
Nobody's gonna see it, even though it was kind of prep for something we may do next year.
Uh-huh.
My feeling was that take the annuals, the seasonal color out, which is the biggest impact for 3 months of the year, which is
Yep. Yeah.
just colors around the circle that
Yeah.
really require the water. Take them out, take the irrigation out. And then everything else that's in there, the woody plants and the perennials, will require an initial watering to get them going. And they're
Right.
still falling under my warranty, but it will have much more impact right away. And if we did that, it looks nice right away, and we can do the irrigation and the seasonal color. Next time around.
Isn't
And I
it
thought-
easier to install the irrigation prior to the plants being your
The
woody plants?
initial main line,
Uh-huh,
the major plumbing in the beginning, yes, because this is such a small area.
uh-huh,
Your plumbing's basically gonna run to the edge of the bed. They're gonna go under the sidewalk.
yep.
And then from there, the guys would typically want me to put the plants in,
Huh.
and then they run the drip around it. So in this case, in this location, it's actually, it doesn't need to be done first.
Oh, okay, right,
You know, if we were doing a ball field or something, yeah,
yeah, okay.
get it in.
It-
But So there was a little bit of, like, they had to kind of squeeze it in to get all the plants
Yep,
to work within the budget.
okay,
But I think I think everybody's gonna have a much better, it'll be more impressive right off the bat. As
okay,
opposed to putting in 20 or 30% of the plants
yes,
and
okay,
gaining the irrigation, and then I just don't think it's gonna come across right. I'd
Okay.
rather do the plantings that are covered under the warranty, have it
Okay.
look nice,
okay,
and then we're 80% complete.
okay,
And then everybody's just gonna say, well, how come there's no flowers along the walkway there? And it'll
Yeah.
be left looking like it's a bedding area,
uh-huh,
like it'll be turned
Yes.
over and
right,
prepped.
right,
And next year, just let them know, next year we're doing flowers, and
Yeah.
but there's gonna be so much activity with the existing plants that are there.
yes,
Your eye just isn't even gonna go to it.
okay.
Are there flowering bushes in the woody category that you're talking about, the woody plants? Are any of them flowering? I bet they are.
Roses,
Okay,
hydrangeas,
hydrangea.
wigelia,
Okay.
spirea. There's hostas. Yeah, there's a decent amount of color there. The fun part about this arrangement is when it's not in bloom, there's a lot of color. The beech trees have red leaves. The spirea has a yellow reddish leaf. The blue star juniper is blue. And I've learned that that's become really important, that people will show pictures of their gardens for 2 weeks a year when it's perfect. But a month later, it's just
Yeah.
green. There's
Yeah.
nothing to it. So I've taken on the challenge of, if it doesn't matter if it's March, May, July,
Yeah.
whoever's coming in and going, it doesn't have to be in bloom. It's still in your face and
Yeah,
has some
And
impact.
attractive, okay,
So, you talked with Bruce about next year's part of the project?
I have not.
No, okay,
We were kind of saying this was kind of the first step. What can we do to get the ball rolling?
Mhm.
And the most recent is how we addressed it, is what you have in front of you. Squeeze in as much as we can at this point.
Can
And
you estimate what those annuals would cost the next year? We're pretty good at annuals. I mean, we actually do very well by, planting annuals, buying them and planting them, but you could give us an idea what it would cost to
But-
kind of complete the project?
but that wouldn't be done without the irrigation, basically, and what I'm wondering, is there anybody in the town who could do the putting the
Okay.
piece underneath the
yes,
sidewalk?
definitely. I don't know if you're looking for a number right now, or I can figure it out. I mean, it's,
An estimate would be good, not,
okay.
not
So
necessarily.
let's figure out 120 annuals. Cost. So you're at 500. We got 300 container mix, roots for 900. So you've got probably 900 in material. And 600 in labor. So you're around $1,500.
Okay,
And to answer your question, yes, but I would rather tell them what to get. So that the color goes with people. No offense to anyone in particular, but people tend to get color of everything. And even some of the places where it's been very successful at some of the shipyards and the boatyards and then locally, people like to see a lot of color, but in a situation like this, you want to have one or two colors working. Very simple massing of like materials is much more effective than 4 or 5 different things going on. Whether it's a red leaf begonia or it's a lantana with scavola growing through it. It needs to be it's got to have some unity all the way
Yeah.
across it.
I may not have stated that correctly. What I was wondering about is there anyone in the town who could do not the putting the irrigation underneath the sidewalk, that kind of heavy lifting kind of piece that
I don't know.
we have a lot of skills here in our town and they're very busy, but if you said it's not, you need to know what you're doing, but it's not like a huge week-long project. We might be able to get them to do some, is it drilling? Is that what it is?
Are you talking about
For the
irrigation?
Irrigation, yeah.
So, well, they got to get into that sidewalk. It's about 8 feet across. Unless somebody, if I remember correctly, there was a hydrant and water inside the planting bed. So if somebody in the town can just tap into that, we don't have to worry about piping under the sidewalk.
someone should know what this hydrant
Yeah.
is linked to.
But then again, at some point, if it's going to be on a remote controller, I don't think the remote controller is going to be in that bed. So it means you'd have to run it somewhere, unless this is where you might want to consult with an irrigation company. They may have a wireless valve.
Yeah.
That they could install in the ground, and the controller could be elsewhere, and
Yeah.
wirelessly it could
Yeah.
open and close the valves to get water through.
All right, let's see. Yeah, I really appreciate you not downplaying the importance of that, because it's very hard to hand water things and stay on top of it, and you don't have any idea what Mother
Yes.
Nature's gonna do.
It's from experience.
Yeah.
Guys have I told the guys how much we've got of water, and it's gonna rain tomorrow. I said, do not rely on it.
Yeah,
It's just,
right.
it's human nature. It's
Yeah.
just,
Okay,
things happen, or something's not available, and it's usually left up to one or two people. And that's a lot to, I've got a new building down in downtown Mystic there, the standard.
huh?
They've got planters that go around the building. They asked me to, they don't want to run tubing all around the building. And I said,
Uh-huh.
yeah, it would look crazy. I've got to have 4 people lined up for the summer, because I can't go there every day,
Right.
but it's got to be watered every day.
Mhm.
And I didn't want to do it, but it's the only way we can pull it off. So it's amazing what it takes what team you have to put together to guarantee that the planters are watered
Yeah.
for 3 months.
No, absolutely.
The woody plants, the perennials, the roses, stuff like that, it'll survive.
Yeah.
With, even if it's watering once a week or
Right.
twice a week.
Yeah.
The flowers, you turn your back on them in a day and they're
Yeah.
toast.
And that's actually one of my concerns. You don't want to say, oh, look at this great ARPA project, and it's installed and everybody's enthusiastic. And then there's we had a really hot, dry summer, which I am not used to. I'm from California, and I was just like, oh, when is it gonna rain? It's so hot and it's so dry. And I thought I was used to that, for that's how it was where I grew up, but I'm not used to it here, and the plants aren't used to it, everything. So yeah, the things that were planted last spring, we watered all summer, and everything made it through, like I said, in a number of different spots. But yeah, you can't, those were, Shirley, do you have any input here? Because Shirley's got a really good hand with perennials and annuals. Nothing? No questions or input, or advice? Okay.
Do you have to have a permit for this small area like this?
Do the planting?
Yeah. To do
Not
the,
that I'm aware of, but I would ask somebody here at the town. But usually I'm under the impression that when you're pouring a footing or doing some kind of, that's usually when it requires a permit. I don't believe. I gotta do a CBYD to pull the U's out, the existing plant material.
Yeah,
I don't believe. I
That was
need-
like the biggest thing. It was user, and there was poison ivy in there, just warning, yeah.
Thank you. I'll get you that.
What's a CVYD?
Well,
Call before you dig,
Yeah.
right?
So, there's enough utilities and stuff in there that,
Yeah,
I just think I'm gonna go in there in a few hours and pull them out with a small backhoe, but they start painting lines out there, I may find out I gotta do it by hand, and then my 3 hours of digging turns into 2 days.
Yeah.
That's when your budgets just go. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
didn't work out.
okay,
So,
all right,
but we'll see.
okay, all right. Okay, all
so
right,
you're still thinking that spring, this season is okay to do it rather than the fall?
like, can you fit it in now?
I can
guess?
pull it off.
You can pull it
I
on.
can pull it off. Yeah, we're getting close. If the process takes 3 or 4 weeks, we're getting close to saying, well, let's just wait till September.
Okay.
But if this is something you guys in the next few days say, you luck, leave a spot on the calendar. We're gonna try to pull this off before June 15th.
Okay,
I will. I'll block out some time for it.
okay. What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, that'll work. We'll, just if you have the timeline and the budget for that first phase of it. And then we have the funds set up structured so that we could release them on that timeline.
Right, so do you need a different timeline if it's slightly different from, since we're not doing the irrigation and such, or do you have everything that you need?
Just if you had the numbers you cited for the flowers, if you provide those for an updated budget, and then we'll just as well as just a timeline of, we went, say, late May, or the timeline of when you want to implement the project,
Okay,
and then we'll be pretty agile to roll with it from there.
oh,
I didn't
okay,
follow that. The budget of the flowers.
You was kind of done like a calculation of the
That's what-
how you have available.
Yeah.
1,500.
Yeah.
That is for.
Yeah, well,
next
yeah, how
year.
are we getting to 10,000?
Oh,
Because this actual, is that what you're saying? Is
yeah.
because it was
Just
originally for 14,850.
Yeah.
So since the project wasn't approved for 14,850, how do we get to just 10? Right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
I thought I sent it to Bruce so that it came out to almost 10.
Oh, okay.
We can buy a plan or something, make it.
Yeah,
I'm
but
happy to do it, but I thought I
No.
did this already, and because
Okay.
I'm doing so many things right now. I
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
remember one.
yes, yeah. Well, you don't want to do again if you've already done, because he
But I think
did.
Bruce said this is what we got to work with, see what
Yes.
you can do to make it work, and
We've
I
already
believe I
done
did it.
this,
I
yeah.
believe I did it already.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. Well,
And
let
that's
me,
taking out the annuals.
It was, we took out the annuals, the maintenance, and the irrigation. But the 80% of most of the plantings are
Right
included.
there, right, okay.
all right. And so once this is installed, how, if you're not doing the maintenance, what would you say would be appropriate for watering, what you plan on installing, so no annuals, to keep them,
A safe, that would be twice a week,
okay,
if not 3. I'd say 2 to 3 days a week, because we're gonna be in summer.
yeah,
Once we get through summer, if it's not a bad summer, none of this is gonna be a problem.
okay. All right.
And sometimes you can, if there's water on the building or easy access, we can't leave a hose across the sidewalk there, but sometimes you can just,
Yeah, I'm hoping I know there's a spigot there to the,
it's not a big area, but I mean,
There's a spigot on the building right here in this corner.
okay, you wanna make sure
I
it's
don't think
on.
I don't know if it operates. There is one around the back side which does operate, which I've been using.
which would be a very long hose.
You have to go around the back side.
Too far.
Right?
Well,
Oh, yeah, there is a little spigot right on the front of the building, so we need to find out.
Right here.
Yep.
So they don't know if it's operable.
That would be pretty easy,
It would
but.
be ideal.
Since
Yeah.
you guys are friends with people that work here in the town,
Mhm.
there's a hydrant right there.
Uh-huh,
They will probably allow us to tap into the hydrant. We may have to put a
Really?
meter on it or something,
okay.
but if it's in-house, you may not have to put a meter on it.
And how would you tap into it if you were coming to water? What would you have to do?
I have a couple of adapters that you just actually screw on. Instead of hooking a 4-inch fire hose to it, you actually hook a 4-inch that goes down to a 1-inch. So you just connect a garden hose to it,
Oh, perfect.
and then you just open it up slowly. Whenever I do that, that's what I need a permit for. I need permission, and I have to pay for that water through a meter.
Okay, all right,
So I
okay,
didn't think of that, but that might be our easiest way to do this.
okay.
And if we do that, we can put a battery powered timer on it, and it will water on its own.
Okay.
That'll get us through.
Okay.
Really good idea.
Did you have a question? I'm sure. Comment? No? Okay, all right. All right, does anybody able to give Bruce a quick call? Does anybody have his phone number? I do, but, and
I
just.
can
see-
text him.
Yes, because I don't know what he might need to ask. Or is it kind of, it'll be similar for him doing art, but it's more of a timeline, and then he's gonna have to do an individual budget for each project.
More so just on kind of with the smaller allocation,
Uh-huh,
the committee's preference on if you would like to do one project, or if you had a project in mind, or if you'd like to do a few smaller ones,
okay,
or even the options of saying you have that $10,000 set aside, you wanted to find new partnerships from there.
okay.
Like if you said the chamber or
Okay.
other organizations.
All right.
Good question.
That's-
This isn't an opportunity to work the artwork, the planting, is it? Did you say you didn't have locations yet?
For there isn't for the arts initiative, the other.
We don't have
projects.
locations now. We don't know whether we're gonna do sculptures or murals. But if we did sculptures, that would maybe fit in.
Just a thought.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
something it could be nice to work it into the new garden if it's
Yep,
not too large or.
yeah. Yeah, that's right. All right. All right, all right. Does anybody have anything else for Pete? Very specifics? If I send you an email and say, hey, let's get this party started,
It's gonna be quick.
then you can come back to me and
It's
say,
just quick. Hey, we're having a meeting tonight.
Yeah. but, and that was Shirley who said to me, I have a couple questions. I'm like, oh, I should probably send him an email. So I really didn't expect you to show up. So you are good. You are.
It's a board.
So-
Yeah. And we appreciate you from actually a couple years ago, you came and spoke to the beautification committee and we appreciate your commitment to the town and trying to make things look better. And I
Yes.
actually,
You guys have done quite a bit the last couple of years.
well, short,
Working hard.
yeah, we're
Yeah.
trying to take out the ugly and put in some better stuff, and we do love to dance.
This will put you on the map.
Yeah.
This is, all the little stuff that's been going on is really nice.
Yeah.
This will have a little more impact.
Yes,
I
exactly.
think I'd get the word out when it happened. I would want eyes on this.
Okay, all right.
You're gonna like it.
Do you have any? Not like a little, like, do you have something that we could put there that some type of little plaque or anything like
We could.
that?
I'm not interested in a sales type
Okay.
plaque or any of
Okay.
those little cards. That's just not my thing.
Okay,
Happy to make up something for it if it's important, but I don't feel the need to have something there that says, hey, this was installed by Peter and here's the phone number, and it just doesn't go with what people are gonna find out who
You're
did
gonna
that.
get good
Yeah.
word of
People are
mouth.
gonna know.
Exactly.
You really.
well, it's really interesting because we have some other people who have donated time and energy and plants, and it's just like, it's very, they're just very forward thinking with the town in mind,
Mm.
and I think you're one of those people. I mean, you're really helping us out here by doing a beautiful design. And you're being very flexible too, and I really appreciate it, because we were hoping we could have gotten this started. We just didn't have all the pieces in place, and then you're helping us here.
I have one more question. If you could just guesstimate, if you were gonna put sculptures, small sculptures, or perhaps you could tell me what size sculptures you would say you could fit in this plan if you're gonna do a couple.
The garden's kind of busy, which is
Yeah.
good. But so that would probably be 3 to 4 foot range. And I would end up doing, we may end up changing the arrangement, the layout a little bit.
Do you think one or two?
We could do 1 or 2. And if we did 2, it would be symmetrically so that at the 2 points on the corners, we'd get 2 there. Should be the same or similar, and then one in the middle.
Flagpole is at one corner.
Yeah.
Flagpole is
There
here,
is,
and you have a box with this.
here. If that's the case.
You'll have to look at it, because there's no room there for a shrub unless you, well, you've got
And you
the
have,
flagpole, which is your big thing there.
that's hydrangea. So we'll,
And this is your historic sign.
gotta work around it.
Yep.
Well,
I will, but if you see the concept of what's trying to be done there, with the
Yes.
lines and the groupings,
I get all that, but it
So when
doesn't
it-
show the flagpole.
correct. When it comes time to do the,
So you may not want a sculpture because the flagpole is the big thing there. And the historic sign.
Yes,
You have the flagpole and
Right.
the historic sign.
right.
I can't see you adding a sculpture because you.
What about on the other side?
You're too busy.
Yeah, I guess.
You think one
Maybe one on the other side.
or none? Which one do you think?
I personally don't think you need anything more because you have you have this historic sign, you have this big flagpole.
But some people don't appreciate plants like we do, and they love they like the,
Well, everybody has an opinion.
right, exactly.
And you're the.
No
you're the
kidding.
designer.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's just good to.
Yeah, and I was just throwing out an
Yes,
idea
it's
of
good to throw it out there and,
stuff we work with the plain things, but you're right, it would certainly be way too busy in that area. But I also never looked at the garden from a standpoint of
Adding
artwork or
something.
sculpture, this kind of just got thrown at me right
Yeah.
This
now.
corner here might,
Correct.
as long as it wasn't something so big that it detracts from the
Yeah, so
historic sign in the library.
you see this.
A lot of stuff to work with in there.
Yeah, yeah. All right,
And a hydrant,
yeah,
and there's all kinds of utilities I have to hide in there, make the lines work.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, if this was installed, you're talking about once it was installed through the end of June, all of July and all of August, is that what you usually
Typically. we
Typically.
Start getting cool nights again, the tail end of August.
tell in August,
We
right?
tend to have a fall drought here. For some reason, we start thinking September, we start thinking rain.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of rainy Septembers for some reason.
Yeah. I just start thinking cool.
Temperatures cool down, but
Yeah, but it's
sometimes
still,
we get a drought.
okay,
Uh,
all right,
But I'm not too concerned with it because we do plant things. I mean, even if we've done jobs where we've had to go back for once a week or once every 2 weeks to ensure that they stay alive
uh-huh,
and they're woody and perennial materials. It's the annuals that you just don't have a shot with.
Yeah.
This stuff, this type of material that we're looking to install, I'm not afraid of it at all.
okay,
Surviving.
okay, good,
And yeah, if you get somebody on board that wants to water, I'm happy to say. I mean, I drive past it every day.
uh-huh,
I'm sure that it's nothing to just pull in and say, hey, whoever's doing the water, give me their number.
Huh.
Let me tell them to up it, or, I mean, I'd like to have a conversation with them because people water and they get everything wet and they walk away. And I mean, it takes an hour to get water down.
yeah, to really, you gotta get the
Sometimes I
roots,
can look at it and say, look, you don't need to stand here for 2 hours. You need to put a sprinkler here on a timer or put the sprinkler here and come back in an hour.
Yeah.
You know, just let it do its thing.
yeah, okay. All right, is there a possibility that if we had a hose, we could, the irrigation tubing, that's something that wouldn't be done until a future time? There's not like you can't put in the tubing and just attach a hose to it, right?
Could, but that's usually. Yeah, you could actually.
And like prep it, just put the
Mhm.
tubing in now and then.
But also
What about the
that's
hose?
adding costs, so we're trying to stick within
It
our
is.
budget.
You'd have to
Yeah.
put some drip tubing in and then just get an adapter that goes from a garden hose to the drip tubing and just basically connect it.
Right.
But you'd still want to have it laid out tubing properly. There's enough plants, wherever you see plants, we've got to run tubing between them.
Yes,
So
right,
it's not just something we could throw
Right.
it in temporarily, but
yeah. And does the tubing go on top of or underneath the mulch? I've never,
usually it goes right on top of the soil and you
Right.
mulch over it.
okay, all right,
And then every year when we go back, Mother Nature and the frost kind of lift some of it up. So
Yeah.
as we remulch following year,
Yeah.
we usually dig some of it back in and put the staples on it.
okay,
And it's usually in that bit, right in that layer between the mulch and the soil.
okay. And then it doesn't, you don't have to worry about it freezing and splitting or anything, or you just have to,
It should be blown out once a year.
and how does that, how do you do that? Do you need a machine for that?
Irrigation company, yeah, it's just a compressor. I'm sure somebody here at the town could handle it, but when you
Okay.
put in an irrigation system right after or just before the backflow preventer, you put in a quick coupler.
Huh.
And the quick coupler is basically just a valve. You take the hose of a compressor, and it goes down into,
Okay,
then you open up the valve and you turn on the compressor and it
okay,
runs air through it.
okay,
You have to do that.
Or
If
it
you
will
don't,
split.
the water that's in the lines will typically freeze. Maybe not so much with drip tubing,
uh-huh,
but any other plumbing leading up to the drip tubing
yeah,
has the ability to freeze and crack.
okay, yeah, we don't want that. We want to make this last as long as possible. Okay,
It's what you just said is kind of important. It's one thing to put something like this in, but without any thought in the next 3 to 5, 10 years,
uh-huh,
somebody's got to keep an eye on it to keep it heading in the right direction.
right.
So,
And then what about, rather than watering, actual maintenance? Like some of these I'm very familiar with and some of them I'm not. How much actual cutting back and things like that are we looking at?
By making me.
Yeah, pruning and that kind of.
It's almost a garden open and a garden close. It's like in the spring and then in late summer and the fall. That's kind of when you give everything a haircut.
Okay,
I'm just thinking in my head what I have there, and I don't think, as long as we get the weeds under control, it's
Yeah.
fairly manageable.
okay,
We usually put pre-emergence down when we do our mulch, and we don't have a lot of weed.
yeah. We've been staying up on weeds once things are taken care of.
Yeah, it's
hard.
not easy.
Yeah.
And even in town here, there's been some areas that were done, came out really nice, and then for a year or two, people kind of didn't pay attention to it.
Yeah.
And it got great, even up front here. I remember a year or two ago, it just kind of got away from us. So,
Well, they actually took everything out, but of course you can see all the mugwort coming back up. So
but the mugwort won't go away unless you treat it chemically.
Yeah. we did a
We've already-
sheet mulch at the top of the hill. It's looking really good with cardboard. But then again, maybe in
year.
3 years.
But in 2 years, mugwort will grow on top of the cardboard.
Huh.
That's the problem. I'm all for the whole organic thing. I love the planet, but
Yeah.
a plant like the mugwort.
Yeah.
Kill it. You pull it and now you got 2. You pull it,
Yes.
now you got 4. It
Yes.
just
Yeah.
keeps coming.
Yeah. I actually haven't even found anything that really does a good job on that. Maybe I'm not. Anyways. All right. Any other questions? Because I don't want to keep you here longer than you need to be. If
Pretty good, thank you.
I hope everybody's good and that was helpful and.
very, very helpful. Yeah, it's like that's,
Talk about plants till 11 o'clock and I know everybody doesn't want that, so.
well, there's a few of us here. There's others who don't understand us.
The plants were thought out. They were
Yes.
thought about how they go in conjunction with the plants around them and during times of the year. I think it's a home run. I think you'll really appreciate it.
Well, that was, even though Bruce is more of an art person than a plant person, he absolutely endorsed this because his belief in, I think everybody's belief here is you walk into that lovely older town hall building, but it's not, it's not showcased at all. So, this would
Bruce
make
has
it,
seen some of what I've done, so it was easy for him to buy into it.
yeah,
He
yeah.
knows where I'm coming.
Yeah, okay. Well, and you do it. We're not doing anything except signing up to water, right? Like you don't need any of our
I
participation
need
here.
you guys to do all this stuff.
Yes, yeah. The phone call,
Yeah, I'm
the
a big
phone
dummy. for this
the-
stuff.
yeah. Yeah, we're good at that.
But I know the garden. If you guys can do this stuff, I'll take care of that stuff.
Well, then make a deal. You can
That's right.
call us and then we'll call you when we need pets.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so I have a couple questions. So can we tap into the hydrant? Can we tap into something that's already there? I have all these questions about the irrigation, but that can be done. No, I'll find out about the hydrant first. And then,
Do you do anything is there any irrigation being done in-house? Like you've got some ball fields that have some pretty large irrigation systems, right?
right?
Is
Yes,
that being done in-house?
I believe it is.
If it is, ask the guys if they can come up with a wireless controller and run it to a wireless valve box. And that will get rid of the plumbing under the sidewalk. If we can tap into that hydrant.
That's
I-
plan A.
Hmm?
That's plan A.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's, we can proceed without it,
yeah,
but it's gonna make everybody's life a little easier. If, hey, we know what, we pulled off a sprinkler system at the same time. This just got really easy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because the little, I'm sorry, Jim. There's some planter boxes out there. And it was just full of weeds. And so we put a few things in there. And Greg Hanover, the director here at Public Works, he's like, okay, it's getting watered now. So I know, and it's on a little drip system.
Needs to be.
Yeah.
It's hot all day out there.
Yeah. Okay, so, all right.
Good
It's,
start.
yes,
Yeah,
excellent
thank
start.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to me.
And like I sent this to him last night, I think. So thank you so much for getting here. I didn't want to. All right. Wow, that's cool. So that's what I thought. If it's a kind of a one and done kind of project, I was thinking that it shouldn't, and it's not a ton of money that he should be able to come install it and then submit the bill.
Yeah, I mean, especially if we have the information ahead of time.
Yeah, yes,
yeah.
of course.
And then so just so I'm clear on what you're saying, like doing it just in one shot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we were worried that like, okay, we have to do this step and that step and this step, and that there was no way we were ever going to get it done in the spring. But I would really if we can get it done quickly, otherwise we just need to do it in the fall. But it is a thing that is just only gonna take a few days.
Yeah.
It's not like the process I believe that we're gonna have to do for art, with identifying the spot and picking out the thing and the mural or, you know, the sculpture. It just seems like to me a little bit more elongated.
No, I think that's right. Like this, especially even because they don't like designate in the application, like what, say for like, if they're doing a mural or just trying to get one to go, like what the mural would look like.
Yeah.
Given it'd be like kind of a community,
It's gonna take a while.
capture.
Yeah.
But there's also the option if you wanted to kind of converge the two, that stretch right there is kind of like one of the gateways into town, so
Right,
it
right.
lines up with proposal. and
Right,
itself
right.
that way.
So, and also since this is basic, so does he need to do a new one of these two without the lantana and other annuals? Or is this okay with a written sheet saying we're gonna remove this, this and this to get to the get to the ARPA funding point?
I would just,
Makes sense.
I might want to share that with like I'll share with Greg. That way I'll get his kind of sign off on it as well,
Okay,
given
all
that.
right.
So the facilities at least knows what you're proposing as well.
Yes, exactly,
But
exactly. But I don't even know if it would either be Greg or if it's gonna be Jeff, who's head of maintenance for Park and Rec. I'm not sure who does, because I know, you know, they do a lot of maintenance for Park and Rec does a lot of maintenance in
Yeah.
town. And I think they do a lot of the fields. And I don't know when they just did the new field there at the community center. I'm assuming they had a irrigation company and put that in. I'm not
Yeah.
positive.
I know they have like an irrigation setup for that.
Yeah.
just because of the kind of slope of that parcel.
Yeah.
But
I mean, there's a lot of talent in this, in the Public Works Department and Park and Rec. I mean, there's a lot of talented people. They have a lot of skills. I just don't know if that's part of what they're supposed to be doing or if they really just need to stick with the, you know, they have to maintain all the fields and things. You know, if these little projects, if not little, but these side projects, if they're able to help out. But, you know, Greg will tell me, or Jeff will tell me if they, you know, pretty quickly.
I think we should definitely pose it as like an ask and not like
Yeah.
to see if they can have that capability.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And if it's the capability and the time. Because, you know, these guys have got, they're busy and I'm sure they got a to-do list, but that would be great if we could, because that's the thing that worries me the most.
Yeah, if we can solve the water problem, then we might be able to invest some of our own money
Uh-huh.
to have the rest of the painting done.
That's what I was thinking. That's if I wanted to know the price, you know, the 1,500. We may be able to do that the
Right.
following year,
Or even this year.
even this year possibly. Yeah.
Yeah, if the water situation is solved,
Yeah.
we could do that.
So the water is key to get that done. And then we can worry about those annuals. I think we can handle the annuals. I really do.
I agree with you. But the
Yeah.
other side.
The other question I have about the murals is you'd mentioned that we could find another source to augment the 10,000. And that would be okay with you, right? If like if we can't quite make a mural out of 10,000 and we need 12,000 or we don't know yet. We're looking for people to even volunteer and then just pay for their costs. We're looking for even that approach. Many towns have done that.
Yeah. Yeah, if you wanted to use it, like even having it in hand and applying for
Thank you,
additional
Pete.
grant funding, say from a state or like a regional nonprofit entity, or if you wanted to even find like a business partner in town or
Right,
another
right.
nonprofit that says, we like what you identify and we'd like to share the message.
Right, right.
Yeah, donate.
Yeah,
Um, and if that's the right you want to go, we can
We just
just,
want to know what
kinda like
flexibility we
individual.
have. Do we have to use just the 10,000 or can we add more to it if we can find the you know, the
Good.
source of the money?
definitely have, if you want to add to it,
I don't
Okay.
think they would have any objection to that.
not at all.
Okay, we're just researching right now.
Yeah,
Now, what would happen though if you had to get to the fire hydrant for a fire, they just uncouple it?
Yeah,
They
take off
just,
that
yeah,
piece.
which is probably not a
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, this is stuff I don't know anything about, so I can't really speak to it. All right, you guys, what other questions do we have? Because this is, we have our expert here.
Right, well, I mean, Kevin has said that the money is there, we just have to submit the reimbursement. And as long as there is money there, they will be paid, I guess.
And we've got,
If you outlined more on like with the 10,000, kind of like a rescoped plan of,
yes,
Mhm.
even the minutes from the meeting today, we'd say, okay, like looking at a longer timeline, we would want to say, put up a mural next April. Or if you said, oh, we want to move quickly and identify the artists, we have like this site in mind, ready made that we want to go for it, but it's just kind of outlining the process of how you want to proceed from there. is
And
really
it
the next
doesn't
step.
matter if it's on a public building or it's in a private building, doesn't matter for that. project.
Yeah, as long as you have the agreement, Bruce had submitted a template agreement to have the mural on the building.
Okay,
Yeah, they're,
How about location? In terms of location, do we have flexibility in where to put it? Or do we
Okay.
already sign up for a place with Bruce?
you have a lot of flexibility,
Okay,
even
okay.
on doing the minute prep, just kind of think, like meeting prep early this afternoon, thinking about, oh, this would be a great spot for a mural and,
Really, did you think of some ideas? So we'd love to hear.
oh, no, just thinking around town, like I have the,
I'd love to hear if you had some.
yeah, I was commenting on that placemaking, kind of like arts and streetscaping. Is outlined in a few of Groton's established documents. This is an economic development strategy. And this is design guidelines for around the town hall. And they both cite kind of that mural and placemaking element as a recommendation for
where
Groton.
is
to
that,
pursue.
is that on the town site?
This,
Yeah,
this is, it doesn't say where it's located, but when I was reading this earlier, I did notice that NOANC has
but this,
pursued that around there.
this design guidelines, is that online? This,
Yeah, this is on the planning and development.
planning
Oh,
development.
Website.
okay.
Yeah, I think that's.
You know whether we can do it on the community center, on the front of the community center?
Mark
I
Berry
haven't
was
really asked
looking,
before.
Mark Berry was looking into that and he,
Yeah.
That's a really good spot. It's close to the
Yeah.
town hall.
yeah.
Kind of a blasé building, and it could use some spark. So that would be interesting to have it on the community.
Yeah, but I
Center.
think more, yeah.
I think you're gonna like this, Missy. Pedestrian friendliness is hard to achieve without trees.
We need trees.
Submitted by Missy House, endorsed by Missy House. Missy we all love trees, but it's very obvious to us in certain areas.
We need.
We need more trees, All right, well, you guys, is there any, this band probably would like to go home and
No,
get
thank
some,
you very
get some
much.
dinner.
You can keep this copy.
Oh,
I-
really?
I'd like to see that.
Yeah, and I'll mention to Lisa as well that I shared both the economic development strategy and the design guidelines.
Because like, did you see our mission is actually to enhance the appearance of our community through the addition of art and landscape projects that foster economic growth in Groton. So we all want it to look nicer, but really the end game, it's the economic growth and people coming because it's a lovely town and they're like, oh, let's go to Groton.
That restaurant that just opened up in New London, that Mexican restaurant, why couldn't it have come to Groton?
Which one?
It's a famous one,
You
Luna
dropped
or
your
something like that.
Mhm.
It's based in Noank. No, Niantic. And then they're coming now for a second location in New London. So those are the kind of things I'd love to have, like more restaurants and got all these empty buildings and empty spaces and
Right, there are a couple of places that really need a little more attention.
everyone would help.
And we also need some housing because, boy, people come into work for EB. I don't know how did you say you lived in downtown Mystic?
Yeah,
Yeah. Above?
right there, above the donut shop.
Yes, right. I remember that.
I've seen you guys working in front of the Bank Square Books.
Oh,
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Yeah, yeah. And then I thought you were gonna say, saw you and your dog getting getting the donuts out of the window of the donut store. My dog loves going by.
Oh, wow.
She's like, oh, somebody dropped a sprinkle. Yeah, and so if you pre-order, you can go to the outside window with your dog. And then she's like, have something for me?
Yeah.
Yeah, she knows now what the sift, I'm not the sift, the Young Buns box looks like, because she knows what a donut hole
Oh,
looks like, yeah.
yeah.
So, does it smell like donuts in your apartment?
It smells pretty good. Yeah. I can't complain too much.
Yeah, all right.
No calories and smells, you know?
Exactly. All right, well, I'm sorry that Bruce is not here.
Yeah, I don't have his phone number, so I sent him an email saying that's the only way I can reach you.
I do have this.
Do you have his phone number? He dropped his glasses.
Oh,
Oh, no.
okay.
Oh, I bet it is on here, on this project.
All
Let's
right,
see.
well, does anybody have anything to talk about? I feel badly, we're in the middle of a meeting, but I could give Bruce a quick call.
Yeah, give him a call because
See
it,
what, and he lives really close by, but since he made both of these applications. And I spoke with him the other day. And I expected him to be here.
Here's his phone number on the application.
Okay.
oh, okay, yes.
On page 20.
Why didn't I think of that?
All right, well, we do have a meeting going on, so should we pause the meeting or do we?
Yeah, we could, this, if you would like recess.
Hey there, did you know that we're having a meeting right now? No, this one is at 5. So Kevin's here from 5 to 6, and then we have another person coming from 6 to 7. Yep, Kevin's here, but he was, okay, good, come, okay, bye. Yeah,
I was going to be putting in front of you.
yeah, no, so, yeah, so we have another person coming at 6, so I split it up so that you wouldn't have to sit through the other meeting. And that other person wouldn't have to sit through this meeting, but Bruce just saw the 6 o'clock time, so anyways.
Could you just refresh your memory, when do we have to spend our money by for our budget that we talked about outside?
It really is best to be within the first week of June. I'd say the first week of June, because they need to stop you need to have everything submitted. That they need to submit, it needs to be submitted. The end of June is when the fiscal year closes out, but you can't wait until then to submit.
Anyway,
Yeah, so,
good planting time will be over by then. You want to get it in mid-May, late May anyway. So,
yeah, so all right, before we talk about that, let's, well, I guess we just, is there anything else we need to ask, Kevin?
Probably not.
So
This is our
the,
agenda, if you want it, Carol. It's
if
a very
something
short
is
agenda.
done by the town crew, obviously, I don't know how that works for submitting a bill. I mean, then
I don't
Yeah.
think they would submit a
they
bill. I
would
think that's
probably
just,
not submit
no, I
anything.
think everything they've done for projects so far it's like they worked it into their schedule. You know, the beautification.
But we never had ARPA money before either. For projects.
Right. Yeah, well,
Is this a one-time deal, the ARPA money? It's never going to come around again. It's just a stimulant package now for now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was approved like to kind of address the economic impact from the pandemic. So it's one of the collection of recovery bills they've passed.
Right.
so that's what, you really want to spread the money around. You don't not necessarily have the town do a bunch of stuff, right? You want like town employees, or does it not matter?
More so just kind of like the strategy for it was the federal government sent the money to the local governments to kind of find those projects that the local stakeholders would know best. So even if it's on producing or addressing a town facility or like a non-town park.
Yeah. Okay,
Good either way, just as long as it's a local impact.
okay.
Are you
Right.
happy with our town share that we got?
Good.
Are you happy with the amount that we got, our town got? Like, is that?
Yeah.
Good.
It's based on like population wise, is how they dispersed it, so. Kind of communities with smaller populations got maybe 1 or 2 million. Can have a lot of impact with almost 9 million.
I'm gonna pause it while we're gonna finish up this and then Chad Frost should be here shortly, so I don't wanna have
I
this,
think they're
is that
already
okay?
here.
All right, we're chatting a little more now, with Bruce McDermott. And so anyways, we had talked at the last regular meeting, you said, oh, you had learned about the, sculpture garden in Florida. And you may have already known this because I thought this was just for murals. And he says, no, it's murals and or sculptures, one or multiple sites. So,
Well, I am, have insinuated myself in the arts community down there, and I have all of the information that they use to put together what they call a sculpture walk. It comprises probably 12 to 15 sculptures, which they do a call for artists for and have come in during the course of this effort that they put together. It's a community-wide thing. They pay the artists remuneration for maybe $1,000 or $2,000. It's like a 2-year lease, and the city contributes some money for this. The total cost is about $25,000-$30,000, I think, if I recall. I've got a bunch of notes at home. They also have a bunch of agreements with the artists and with the city, all drawn by attorneys. I have copies of all of them. I can't tell you how exciting it is to be part of that thing down there. I mean, they do a thing at the Museum of Art just before I left Florida, and the whole community's there. It's really an extraordinary effort. The sculptures are not real big. They're not like the one that I have over at the senior center. They're smaller. They might be the size of this table, let's say, on end. You know,
it's DeLand, Florida is where he goes in the. Yeah, DeLand, which is, what do you say it's called? It's often voted the most beautiful town.
yeah, it's voted the most beautiful town in Central Florida often. It's just west of Daytona Beach, about 20 miles, and about 40 miles north of Orlando. And the whole town has just got art all over the place, murals and sculpture. And one of the fellow that actually runs the program, people will regularly call him out and say, what are you doing? You're making this town so good looking that people are coming here and moving in. And when I first went down there 15 years ago and bought a condominium, now it's the size of Groton, and before it was 25,000 people. So it's a very attractive place. I'm not saying that the art is the reason that everybody's moved in there. There are other reasons, but it's definitely a contributor for sure.
Yeah.
It's where Stetson University is too, so it's a college town.
So you described where the walk is. Is it like all in one strip part of
No,
town, or
it's
is it
all over the
scattered
place.
all over?
Yeah, it's a
town?
fairly good sized downtown, long, maybe 6-7 blocks, I would say. And maybe a couple of blocks off at either end of that. It also happens to be the county seat, so it's a pretty good looking town to begin with. All the buildings are in good shape, brand new and so forth. So it's spread out, and the Museum of Arts has a hand in it, but really it's run by a small select committee that put all of this stuff together. And they work in concert with the town, or the city as it is down there. And like I say, it's just I sent an actual video of the event to John Burt, just to show him that, this is really cool.
Yeah.
And he was impressed with the whole thing. Said, yeah, we'd like to do something like that.
When you said you leased the artists, one for 1 or 2 years, what does that mean? Does that mean they move their sculpture after a couple of years? You have to find someone else?
That's how they do the sculpture. It's not like a mural that's permanent. They trade the sculptures out after a couple of years. So they'll pay the artist.
Didn't
to-
you say they were for sale though too? Like somebody could purchase the sculptures or
You
not?
can do that, yeah. That's perfectly okay to do that. But that's just the way it's done.
We could do it for a longer period of time. They do it for 1 or 2 years, but we sure wouldn't want that turnover. I don't think that quickly here. Maybe
Well,
maybe 5 years or something. or-
That's almost immaterial, to be honest with you, for me, Missy. The fact is that they do it and they trade it out after a couple of years and people like that. They like to see different things. It's not to say that some of the things that are down there don't get purchased by the city and become permanent. That can happen too.
Mhm.
But a lot of times it's more whimsical
Mhm.
than it is like the one I've got over there.
Yeah.
You know, that's designed to be permanent forever.
Mhm.
But and they're colorful pieces, so they stand out. And it just gives kind of a good warm feeling to the town when you're walking around there.
Mhm.
So 2 years is what they use. And it covers the cost of getting it shipped there, because that's usually a problem. The city provides concrete pads for all of these things. And once they have them in place, they don't need to redo them. They just use the same one over and over again for the most part.
Yeah.
But their public works department does all of that stuff. So
What about the location? Are they all near sidewalks, established sidewalks, or?
they're
If you-
all near pedestrian walkways for the most part of one kind or another. Yeah. Yeah. I don't have a lot of pictures of them, but I have. But I can certainly get that kind of stuff if you want. But yeah, they're. I don't think I have.
The advantage of Florida, there's no snow to deal with. So they can have.
Snow.
So if it's by the sidewalk.
The heat is what you have to deal with down there.
Yeah. Isn't that kind of what they do at Avery Point, now Yukon Avery Point,
I love
is
that.
they have sculptures and I'm pretty sure they change
They
fairly
do.
often.
They change them out. But I gotta tell you, the ones in DeLand are a lot better than the
Uh-huh.
ones over at Yukon. I don't know why, it's just, that's my opinion.
Yeah. As an artist, that's your humble
Yeah.
opinion, but what I'm thinking though is maybe that's what, I mean, an artist wanting to get their name out there and their sculptures.
right.
You know, you want your sculptures.
That's
to be
exactly
seen,
right. You know,
right?
artists will do almost anything to get their name out there.
I noticed you put the word almost in there, so that's good.
So you said you had a video that shows this.
What's that?
You have some kind of a video or some kind of a clip.
I do, actually.
Is that something you could send the members of the committee?
I don't know how this would come off really. Well, I won't bore you with the whole thing, but that's essentially the clip that I sent John Burt. That's the guy who runs the program. He's a sculptor. And you can't hear it, unfortunately, but like I say, it's a community-wide effort and they do a pretty good job.
Harold just got this images, Dalen, Florida, and it shows several of the sculptures.
Okay.
Oh, does it? Yeah, okay, great.
So I guess if we go to the town site or the
It
city
says
side.
images, Dalen.
Just wondering if I had it. Here's a picture of one. Pass that around.
Oh, wow. Cool.
It's about 6 feet tall
Okay.
on the pedestal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so.
I like
so-
the color. Yes, it's nice.
And so how do you get the word out?
Well, you do a call for artists.
Mhm.
There are some national websites where you can do this call for artists.
Mhm.
And they get a lot of people that apply.
Mhm.
So they pull up, they want pieces that are kind of accessible,
Mhm.
not real big ones, not small ones, something that'll make a little bit of a statement.
Oh, yeah.
And it just works out real well.
Is there an average price on those, Bruce?
Is that,
Is there an average price they pay for the sculptures?
probably, let's see, there are about a dozen of them. I think it costs them about $25,000 for about a dozen.
Well, for all of them?
Yeah,
Well,
So it's not.
that's a lease now.
yeah.
Yeah,
that's a
so,
lease.
so it's not like 10,000 apiece.
No, nothing like that. And that's why it's so good. The other thing that's really attractive about the idea is you can put these things anywhere. You don't have to worry about trying to talk a building owner into using the side of his building for a mural and then having to go through all of the
Mhm.
kinds of things that we've had to do between the building owner, the town, and the artists. You know, it's kind of a 3-in-1 deal. So you could, my thought was we could put these things in the part of town that is really needs this kind of stuff. That's Route 12 and Route 1. You know, we could get, I don't know who owned, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know who owns all of the property that we'd be talking about. Because we don't really have a walkable area anywhere like they do down in the land. But we could do the same thing and accomplish a real nice goal of having art in the community. I could see Johnson's Hardware, for instance, and have a concrete pad put outside of Johnson's Hardware, small one.
Mhm.
And I'm sure that he'd go along with it. I'm guessing he'd go along with it. And have a piece of art. It would be attractive for his business,
Mhm.
and yet it's not his.
Mhm.
And we'd have it there for a couple of years and then change it out.
It's the same thing as Chelsea Groton decided to keep their whales at quite a few locations.
Yeah, Chelsea Groton would be a good one too. The other thing is, didn't you
Yeah,
mention?
sure. I mean, there are
But the little.
people that are
Bible-
community minded to begin with, like Chelsea Groton and Johnson's, who helps us out all the time. I think they go along with that program.
About in front of the ice cream shop. You've got that.
Dairy Queen?
Yeah, yeah.
It's close to
well-
Johnson.
You've got a lot of kids going through there. You've got, it's a corner.
Mhm.
It's certainly not a,
Okay. I
Pretty
really-
walkable.
I
So
see
that's
that.
the idea anyway. And
If 10,000 would get it started, maybe get a couple of
that's
sites.
right. Exactly. Yeah.
And then get it rolling from there.
Mhm.
Maybe we could raise money again to continue that or
I
something.
think if we can put this together and people just see a few of these things, I think it would be exciting and people would get behind it. They can't be this different up here than they are in Florida. I mean, you would think that Florida, being as conservative as it is, would not really be behind this kind of a thing. But it's funny, it's just the opposite. They really get excited by it.
Did you see it on one side of a road or could it be on both sides?
Could be on either side.
Either. It
Sure.
wouldn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be in any particular place. And in fact, if we just started this, we've only got like a half a dozen places that we would have money to put it together.
you could start at the senior center where yours is. Park there and get a walk in. Well, I guess
Yeah.
not anything would be walking
Or even the
distance.
drive-through town type thing. So
Yeah.
In town, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it'd be nice to get people just some more traffic in town. Maybe the shops will come, but I think we need more, people.
Well, we could
Looking
talk
for-
about that. And my thought was, it takes a little schmoozing to put this together. Talking to the building owners and getting Public Works to put some concrete pads in like they did with mine. And they did a great job for me. And you wouldn't have to put a big one in there like that,
Yeah.
smaller one. So I'd like to have maybe a small committee that we'd go talk to some people along Route 1 and Route 12.
Yeah.
And generate some interest that way. I mean, Chelsea's a good one, for instance,
The new
and
barber shop
Johnson's.
now, the new barber shop has that place right in front of the store that's kind of a shop that got a couple of planners there
the
now.
one next to the barn,
Barn.
Yeah,
but
absolutely. In fact, I'm gonna be playing there in about an hour. So, yeah, that's the idea.
Hey,
I can see entrances to parking lots. We have all these
You have a
shopping.
lot of
That
parts.
sounds like a great idea. So can we modify the proposal to fit this new
Yeah,
idea?
The way it's written is
Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah.
pretty already flexible from the start, and
I think this is.
it sounds like a great idea to me.
Okay.
But I think if we just kind of, the process of shifting it, writing something up of, here's what we're now thinking for the proposal,
right.
and adding a timeline of, here's what we want to,
Maybe somewhere out there's a sculptor that has a sculpture of somebody riding along in a car and throwing a nip out the window.
Ironic.
Do you have that?
Yeah, we want less of that, not more of that.
I know, I'm just kidding.
All right, we need to wrap this up because our next speaker, Chad Frost, is here. Any last comments other than thank you so much for
Yeah,
hanging
thank
out
you,
with
Kevin.
us?
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it. And I'm hoping we can, get these things together very quickly. Do you recall if Pete Woods sent you a newer budget?
He did send me a newer budget, nothing newer as far as a drawing is concerned.
No, we need the newer budget. If you could send that.
Yeah, I wonder what, well, I don't know. Okay, I'll check and see.
Yeah, well, so we asked him and he said, I think
I think he may have just told me he could work the numbers out. I don't know if he
did.
actually sent me a budget.
He
but
thought
I'll-
he may have.
Oh,
So,
really?
he-
Well, I've got it on my computer if he did.
yeah, so if you could,
I will check.
it's not a big deal. There's a few things he took out but we discussed that at length because he
Okay.
was here. So,
All right,
all right.
I'll put it down.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Appreciate your
So much for having
time.
me.
Good
And
to meet you, Kevin.
good to meet you.
Yeah, I didn't, I had no idea. All right, all right. All right, so hopefully we can
Thank you.
figure out. All right,
Thank
thank you
Bye-bye.
so much.
Rosa,
Right.
I am Carol Belli, and I'm just kind of a new person that's just curious about this committee, and I'm visiting, so to speak, but I would love to be on your committee to talk.
Oh, yeah. Well, definitely gonna need some help, to put this kind of, do you have a card or something you can give me or a telephone number or whatever?
We are being recorded, so welcome
Cheryl, how you doing?
to Chad Frost, Kent and Frost, and Mark
Oh,
Berry,
no.
our
Yeah.
Director of Park and Rec.
Well-
He's the one who's,
Sure.
they're working together on Sutton Park. And some major changes to Sutton Park and very, very kindly specifically asked me if we have some input on the changes. And so we're going to get a presentation on what's going to be done. We have one idea already, but we'll let you guys talk first. So thank you both very much for coming.
No problem. Thanks for having us. Let me. So yeah, we're here at Sutton Park. I've got a plan. This is the existing conditions survey. So, Mark, I don't know if you want to intro anything or you want me just to jump right in.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different pieces to this big project. We, a couple of years ago, got a community connectivity grant to create a multi-use path from the existing multi-use path on Route 1. And it's going to wind through the park, both the north section and the south section, which is the baseball fields, and actually go out and connect to Midway Oval. And then there'll be some additional signage from Midway Oval all the way over to, I'm trying to think of
Is it
that.
Haley Farm? Are you-
Well, where,
Depot Road.
yeah, it actually goes to Depot Road,
and
right.
Connects to Bluff Point. and-
Right. Yeah, it goes over to Industrial Drive, connects to Lily Lane. So that's one project, and Kent and Frost have taken over the design of that. We also got money from the state to put in a bathroom. There used to be a bathroom.
Just-
Okay.
Just down there.
Yeah, it was here. It was closed for like 19 years and it finally got taken down a couple of years ago. So right now, all we have is a portalet. I consider this a community park and we need more than a portalet. Because, this building and this building gets rented out frequently for birthday parties, graduations and things like that. So that's kind of a second project. And then the third project is renovations to the skate park, this playground, and also looking at redoing the reconfiguring or maybe just repaving. I think there'll be some reconfiguration of the parking lot.
Mhm.
So Chad is trying to figure all that out. in a way that works best. Yes, yeah.
Yep. So the town went out to RFP, RFQ process for consultants. We were fortunate enough to get selected. So we're at the beginning phase of figuring out what it is that we're going to do. Right? So we're not here to present what the project is. We're here to listen from you and really to hear if there was any ideas that you guys had or things that you liked or hated about the park, so we could figure that out and incorporate it into the design as we go. We've met with the skate park group numerous times. They're very active and very engaged, which is great. We had a neighborhood meeting as well. Wasn't as well attended, but we put up flyers throughout the area in the neighborhood. And we put up lawn signs as well, trying to advertise that meeting and just get people's input, right? We know the park, so it's a little bit hard to see here, but this is the overall area of the site, right? It's kind of two pieces. We have the northern piece, it pinches down to a little bit, and we have the southern piece, which is the ball fields in it. This is looking specifically at the north. We can flip through the survey. It's in three pieces to see the whole thing. But for the most part, with the exception of the multi-use trail, most of our work is happening here in the north end. That's where the money that's been approved so far to be spent.
Where are the houses that back up against it? Can you show me where that is?
All of these are house lots, so that
Right there.
there's a
Okay.
house right there. Yep. There's another, just the edge of the house right here, another one right there. You can see kind of the driveway.
Those are all the backs of the
The
house.
backs of the
These
house.
are all the different properties.
Is the trail going to connect to that macadam thing that goes all the way from over to Bluff Point? You know, it goes from
Yeah,
Bluff
so
Point all the
we'll
way
be able
to Haley Farm.
Yes, yeah, so there's a connection, well. probably doesn't show.
Basically, the trail will come through here. There's a connection onto the oval. We come along the oval through here. And then the trail is between Industrial Drive and the neighborhood back here. So
Okay, because
it'll
it's hard to find your way through that area.
Yep.
It's like a
Part of it
maze.
is some signage.
Yeah,
and with
Yeah,
signage.
okay, that's what I was gonna
It's
suggest. Yeah.
on the road and, you know,
Along the route.
along the
Yeah,
road. so-
and there's painting, most of because the roadway width, we're not gonna change the roadway at all. It's just gonna be painting and signage on the road to identify the route. And then
Okay.
Yeah.
this will be a new pathway
Right.
with the same signage and route identification. And then if you kind of come up to Depot Road, make that connection,
Mhm.
which hopefully will then get extended with the new grant that the town's received down towards the airport. Or you can go back on, what we call the GNS trail, the paved path that goes, the trolley trail. Yep, it goes back to Haley Farm.
Yep.
Yep. So this is, we've had the whole property surveyed, which is this A2T2 survey that's on top of here. And then additionally, we went and flew our drone to get a really highly detailed, accurate aerial to put over everything for this area, so we can kind of really look at current conditions. One of the things that we promoted a little bit in our proposal was really looking at this as a bit of a gateway for Groton and Groton Center, if you will. Knowing that both new schools, you've got the new Grosso Tech at the top of the hill, you've got the new middle school, this is the main entrance in there. The amount of parents, me being one of them, that drives through there on a daily basis, picking up kids and dropping off kids has gone up exponentially, as well as obviously all the traffic along Route 1. And so this park for a long time was kind of hidden and kind of, the stepchild of the park system on some level, right? It hadn't gotten a ton of love. Underinvested is a good
But also,
label.
do you think that right across the street, like,
Quite Plains.
yeah.
It's the beautiful
which is-
park.
Yeah,
Yep.
so
Um,
that's kind of like,
It's still kind of hidden.
It is.
It
And
is.
so that's one of the things we want to talk about,
Okay.
right? Is do we want to make it more visible to the public? And one of the things we've looked at is there's this man-made berm here with some, in my opinion, very large overgrown white pine trees where, growth is up high, but there's not much left down low. You've got some large rhododendrons and scrubby stuff happening.
Mhm.
And that basically shields everything from the road.
Is that intentional to do that?
I think way back when it was intentional.
Yeah.
Now the question is that still the right thing to do,
Yeah.
right? Like, one of the things I think that the public really likes about Paquonic Plains is you drive by and you see the activity.
It's
You
open.
see kids out there, you
Yeah.
see what's going on, you see people walking around the path. Whereas here, it's a little bit more secluded and hidden. And is that good or is that bad? Right? And that's one of the questions we want to kind of get from you. And it doesn't have to be as a collective, it could be individually like, oh, I really like it, or oh, I don't like it. But that's definitely some of one of the things we're looking at, is what do we think this streetscape appearance, because in my opinion, really, there's quite a bit of streetscape along Route 1 that doesn't really kind of tell you it's a park, right? It doesn't seem like it's a
Exactly.
public space.
Mhm.
Even the signage, you see the signage Stoughton Park, but.
Yeah.
You almost have to look.
But it's hidden way back over here now.
Yeah.
You know, it was over here and a little bit more visible, and then when the middle school put their sign in, you know, the park got relegated even on its own property.
I would love to have a little bit more of a presence, yeah,
Okay,
a bolder entrance.
Yep.
And I'm also
Agreed.
concerned about the area where the houses are back there.
okay.
You might need to soften that, you know,
Yep.
that view. So I don't know how you're gonna do that, but
So I'm assuming, Chad, since you're a landscape designer, you know, whenever anybody takes down trees, it hurts my heart. So we can't just take down trees. Like, what would be put there instead? You know?
Thin them out, couldn't you?
yeah.
Well,
Well, I mean, or do you remove the berm altogether? Because the berm on its own, you know,
absolutely block some of the view.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I would think so. Again, we haven't started the design process yet, but one of the things we do pretty much on all kind of projects, especially this would be one, would be street trees. Large, mature street trees that have a big high canopy that you can see underneath, which is kind of true of Paquonic Plains. We have some of the older existing trees. So and there's a couple here that I would think would probably remain. You know, and it could be that we reinforce that and provide that rhythm, that streetscape appearance down the road, which I think is very appropriate.
Good idea.
This, you know, this could be literally anything we want it to be, but it could just be that we level it out and we provide a bigger lawn. It could have ornamental trees, it could have flowering trees. You know, in my opinion, I think it wants to be something that's inviting the public in both visually and physically.
How about a couple picnic tables or something like that?
well, it's interesting. So Alina and I put a bunch of
You
new,
guys planted in
we
here.
planted in there. And so we were there all the time watering.
Yeah.
And I thought, gosh, I've never been back here before. It actually seemed to lend itself to because of the berm and because of the privacy, like someplace where you'd have a picnic.
Mhm.
It actually did, but I mean, I had never been in there before, so.
Yeah.
People use it as such, you think? Where
Oh,
would it park?
there is enough garbage evidence that people use.
Well, people walk through. I don't know that anybody,
You wouldn't
sits
want to
there.
use that space for another sport, like bocce or something, like something unusual.
Well, that's one of the things
Closer to the road, they could see it, it would be like more.
we've heard from the basketball people that one isn't necessarily enough. So we're looking at where, if we were to put a second one, where would that go? We're, you know, in the bathroom that Mark mentioned, we were looking for a home for the bathroom. We have like 7 projects we're weaving together
Yeah.
at this one, but so initially Public Works was thinking of putting the bathroom here.
Mhm.
right, but they want it closer because this other one was vandalized.
It was vandalized horribly,
Yeah.
maybe, and wasn't publicly visible.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
So
that's what.
they want it to be.
So that was the idea of, oh, let's put it out here and make it visible. I agree with that. But then as you start thinking about it, you say, okay, well, the use here is basketball, right? And that makes a nice adjacent thing. Use over here is a very large skate park that gets a ton of use. You've got a kids playground that gets quite a bit of use, and you've got a family pavilion that gets quite a bit of use. And we're gonna make all of these kids cross the road to go to the bathroom over here. Is that the right choice to make? We should be looking for a new home for the bathroom.
Yeah.
Again, highly visible, don't stuff it behind the corner. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things we're playing with is should that bathroom be associated more with probably the more intensive use as
Yeah,
of currently,
yeah.
and not make the cross back and forth.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of other things of kind of what else can go out here. One of the things that's been on the kind of the plan for Sutton Park since like 2009 was the idea of, I'm gonna say unleashing, that's not even the right word, but allowing the skate park to integrate into the rest of the park.
Mhm.
Right now, it's very walled off, literally there's a fence all the way around it.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is inside, this is outside.
Mhm.
And that's was done intentionally at the beginning. And what we've heard from some is that's very intimidating for new skaters and young families and parents that might want to bring a kid out there to like try it for the first time, is you feel like you're entering this zone. Right? And that,
They do make a lot of noise though.
oh
I
yeah,
mean, that's a real racket those guys create down there.
they're skating.
So if you wanted to have an area where families or people could just kind of rest and relax, that ain't it.
Well, and that's one of the things we've talked about is that
One or the other.
this is when I drive by at night. Because there are lights right now here and there's lights there. This is heavily used by teenagers,
Mhm.
right? This is heavily used really by everybody. We always kind of assume skaters are more of that teenage group, even though there's plenty of skaters that are my age and
Yeah.
plenty of skaters that are
Little kids
Yeah,
too.
little
you
kids.
go there in the middle of the day, there's moms with kids that are.
Yeah,
their
I've
kids
seen
have
it.
Their
Yeah.
scooters.
Right.
Yeah.
so, Yeah.
Yeah.
it's-
And I've also seen the older kids helping the little kids
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. So the idea of allowing the skate park to be part of the rest of the park, right? And what does that mean? And some of that could just mean that we integrate the edges better so that there might be some like concrete
Soft corners
benches that people can
Mhm.
sit on along
Mhm.
the road, but also you can skate those kind of features. And so we might create some blending of that.
Mhm.
One of the ideas was as we talked about this multi-use path coming through, that everybody has to get to the skate park.
Mhm.
Most of the local skaters skate to the skate park. And wouldn't it be cool if there were some little features and whoop-de-doos along the path on the way to get there? That could also be like
Beginners.
beginner area, right? That
Right.
that a little kid can kind of roll over very small little rollers. But it would be fun for somebody that's skating from, a block or two away to come to the skate park. It kind of allows the whole thing. And one of the questions we've been asking is this an intimidating park for some families? Do we think, right? Because it does tend to be more of that teenage, more active use. As you
Yeah.
said, there's a lot of noise coming out of here because it is wheels slapping and boards slapping and people being excited. And you got people being excited playing basketball. And so is it geared towards that more active use? And should we continue that path, or should we put in other things to make it more passive or make it more?
I was just in a park in DeLand last week where they did exactly that. They kind of walled it off for the most part.
Yeah.
So that the rest of it's a huge park. And the rest of the park is pretty much for families who use it, and they even have a basketball court, a couple of them, that kind of thing. But as far as the folks who use the, what do you call that stuff? The
Skate park?
skate park?
Yeah.
They're pretty much, you can see them, they're visible, but they don't have any like walkways where they have bumps and things like that for them to go over. And, so and I can see why, because I think it would be a little off-putting for other people who want to use the park. It kind of makes the whole park sort of a skate park, even though it's, that's my opinion
Yeah.
anyway. And that's what they do
Yeah.
down there.
I also have a problem with it being, to me, I've been there many times, not as a skater. Believe it or not. But as far as some of those, they're talented young
Very.
people and they're zooming all around. You can't have a dog in there. You can't have a little kid running in there. I think just for safety.
Yep.
And, sometimes things are a little stressful. It's stressful when you change schools. Kelsey changed schools freshman year. She walked into Fitch High School from Ledyard, it's, I don't know, we can't make our world unstressful. You don't want people to feel left out or excluded.
Yeah.
So maybe there could be some encouragement of, there's like for lap swimming, you're doing lap swimming and you're usually a good swimmer, but it's not. So there's a different time for swimming lessons and a different time for lap swimming. So maybe there's an hour, a couple hours a day that are for novices, or you have anything through parks where like to introduce? A class like,
Oh.
beginning skaters, anything like that? He's like,
No, it's completely organic.
okay, all right. I don't,
When the park first opened, the skate
Mhm.
park first opened, we did, the reason the fence was there is because everybody was required to wear a helmet and, there was all kinds of rules
Mhm.
and managing something like that, it just wasn't manageable. I mean, you couldn't have somebody down there all the time chasing
Yeah.
kids around saying,
Yeah,
oh, you gotta have your helmet, get out of here.
uh,
And it just, so we've transitioned away from that, but I think the fence is kind of a leftover from that era when we were trying to micromanage how the skate park got used. And part of that was coming from risk management,
yeah.
because it was a
New thing.
new thing and, there was some concerns, but, because of the history of the park and how things have gone,
Mhm.
those concerns aren't there.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, every one I've seen though, that's a little bit separate, just so that, for safety, not just to make sure that all the fast stuff that's happening there, because there's bikes on there too, right?
Yeah.
That there's a little bit of separateness,
Yeah.
so that, like I said, a toddler or a dog or just doesn't go running in there. and,
Yep.
Have a negative interaction.
Yep.
And those people need to be able to go fast.
And I like the idea of a soft, kind of a soft edge where you
Yeah.
could have people watching, like a mother with a
Right.
6-year-old or, a young
Yeah.
family watching.
Yeah.
I like the idea of being able to look in and to have like one corner of that, kind of like we can peek in and watch and make it friendly to watch.
right.
I think we need a few more trash container or recycling
What
containers
is
too,
this
because there's a lot
spring
of
of
trash.
water here? I know there's water running through.
Yeah, that's Fort
Fort
Hill
Hill
Road,
Hill Brook.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a pretty brook.
Yeah.
Could you make that kind of a
Planning
focal
to
point
fill-
somehow?
Yeah, we're doing it.
Nothing, we're gonna make it nice.
On
Yeah.
Zoom here,
Yeah.
watch out.
Is the path set in stone on where it's gonna go?
No.
No.
Because one of the things I go by saying, it's great that that path ends there, but as with kids playing aquatic planes, there's no real area where the kids can safely cross, because a kid or adult,
Yeah,
It's all the way down here.
right.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you could. In England, a million years ago, one time I went through had the small push a button. And it wasn't like a traffic light, but you got your 30 seconds to cross.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something possible here.
Mm.
Well, no, because the only other option would be to just put a walkway over or under. And that's not gonna happen.
Yeah,
So it's like,
Or
well,
you either go there or you gotta walk down to the other side and go across. Yeah,
right,
that's where you gotta
yeah,
cross.
yeah,
so.
it's both lights is kind of we can look into it, but what I would say is that normally the state has requirements as far as proximity to existing lighted intersections where you can cross. And I haven't measured it, but my guess is anything within this property, they're gonna force us to go to the
Okay.
crossed intersection. But what I would say there is that there's no reason why this can't be a more prominent,
Yeah.
better accessed, safer pedestrian crossing. Because it gets a ton of use. I know,
Mhm.
I feel like I see kids crossing back and forth all the time, coming over here to get their snacks and going back.
Yeah,
again,
going
or
back,
Going up to the
yeah.
school and
Yeah.
coming back down.
Yeah.
again.
Is the possibility of the middle school sign being altered a little bit other than where they planned
I
it?
wouldn't think so.
Well,
Oh my God, it
So-
took a long time to put that thing.
So what I've said, or what we're looking at, one of the things we're looking at again is the overall aesthetics and appearance of the park. And trying to make this a bit more of a showpiece for Groton. And I do think signage needs to be a part of that. Will we be picking up and moving the sign they just put in there? I find that probably unlikely, just because we know they spent like $100,000 to put that sign in. Now, the school did, yeah. Now, and this sign got moved over here. Now, I do think there should be a prominent entry that clearly says this is Sutton Park, right? And this is the town of Groton.
Yeah.
And what that is and how that is wayfinding and what kind of stuff we incorporate to make that statement, we don't know yet. But it shouldn't be this kind of like relegated to the back corner.
I have an interesting idea. This is like on the road. It's more like a mural on the road,
Yeah.
you know, kind of like drawing you right into the park. That would be really
Yeah.
nice there. Something
Maybe,
really
now, is this town owned? Because I know this is state owned, right?
This is town owned, yeah.
Yeah, so you
Yeah.
could probably do it on town owned, but we already explored these kind of things with the state, and the state doesn't want anything to do
Doesn't
with
like
it.
anything.
They don't even want us
Yeah.
to put anything pretty on the, electric boxes, but possibly, and that's supposed to be traffic slowing too,
Yeah.
right?
Traffic calming, yep.
Traffic calming, yeah.
Yep. And it's interesting. So one of the things we have talked about with all the groups kind of going down that route is public art, right? And how much public art should we bring in? Should we bring in a lot? Should we bring in a little? Should we bring in none? And do we use that as kind of helping to identify the brand, if you will, for lack of a better term, of Sutton Park?
Sure. You could,
Like Mark and I talked a long time ago about when we put in when the town puts in the new bathroom.
Yep.
Is having the skaters design a mural for the side of that so that they take some ownership
Yep.
of that.
Yep.
And obviously to be their theme. And then I don't know who, obviously it was vandalized years ago and it was tucked way back there, but I know that's a problem in all towns. So if we have the people who are here being very aware of their, their own
And
space.
the skaters have taken ownership of this space,
Yes.
because there are skaters that will buy a roller and buy a gallon of paint.
Mhm.
And when somebody paints something on there that really isn't appropriate, they go and cover it up.
oh, really?
Oh, yeah,
Hmm.
that's happening right
Oh,
now.
okay.
So, yeah. And, all these little ladybugs and some of these other things were all done by skaters.
Right, they maintain that.
Yes.
We had this discussion that
That's great.
Yeah.
they have a very significant feeling of ownership.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
almost, I would say from a public perspective, almost too much, right? Like how many places?
Their
can you-
park.
It is, right? Can they just say, all right, we're gonna go paint this, and they take the initiative and they maintain it, they kind of self-police it.
Yeah.
There is a very high level of ownership there. So
Yeah.
I would agree, and that's one of the things we mentioned about the building, was trying to incorporate it, have personality.
Yeah.
And maybe allowing for a mural to be on it that
Yeah.
helps them take ownership of it.
Is that Fort Hill Brook part of our property? Town?
Up to the center line, basically.
Yeah.
But yes,
And because that's, a water course as part of a park would be spectacular if we could
you can.
develop that a little bit, have some picnic tables along that or something.
There's a couple places where you
Are
can
there?
see the park, and we can put some tables within the proximity.
Can you access it now? Can you walk up to it now, or is
You
it?
can walk very close to it.
Mhm.
But there is wetlands obviously along there and stuff like that. So the plan right now is to not encroach into those wetlands at all.
Sure,
But to make it a little bit more visible.
that'd make it very
And there
attractive
was-
anyway.
The town you put in, when the bathroom came down, you had some grants for some native plants that went back in.
Yeah, that's more in the south section. I mean, if you look.
There's a whole bunch down in the south section, but these aren't as pretty to look at, but this gives you an idea as we continue down. The bathroom was in here, there was some new plantings kind of happened here and here. And then this is the driveway that continues around. This is our real pinch point. So we have the neighborhood happening here. Our property line is the fence line, which is right there. We get to within a couple feet between the fence and the road, and then the road, and then literally another couple of feet and we're hitting water. So that's our tightest point to get through. And then basically from about here. Yeah, that fixed plant, that
Fence plant
Yeah.
nursery area.
huge area
Yeah,
that,
we got a grant from the Connecticut Nature Conservancy
Mhm.
to kind of establish a riparian buffer. So the
Really? Right
idea
here?
was- Yes, and I think there's about 600 shrubs that went in.
Yeah.
I think the grant was for $72,000. We had 600 shrubs put in all along there just to try to protect the brook.
Yeah, it goes there.
Is that where the fencing's around?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we've started taking those out. Just because we did it, they were put in just to help the plants get
Yeah.
established, protect them.
Yeah.
Now, we've started taking them out.
Good, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I drove back there. It's like, I remember the last time I did it was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I said, I think the fencing stuff was still up. I said, probably somebody. It's
Yeah.
just been forgotten about.
No,
Yeah.
we deliberately left it up for a few years.
Yeah.
I think this may be the third summer.
That was about right.
Yeah, I think it's.
Because
the third summer.
it was first year of COVID that I think they were playing.
Oh, right. I remember I made the speech with the mask on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we are working towards removing all of those, but
We've had good success with things surviving.
yeah, I would say that, boy, the germination rate was above 85%. And there's not a lot of plants that didn't make it.
Good.
With a water thing, it looks like a bridge supports on both sides
Yeah.
of, if like something could be used even, not necessarily go all the way over, but if that could be like a picnic table area. Again, it would be an expensive thing, or at least use the park side as a support for some sort of.
So it's really interesting, and I've learned things. I've lived in town now for 20-something years, and I'm learning things all the time. But so those bridge abutments, there's an abutment there and there that spans the water course that was put in for the sledding hill on Grosso Tech's property, and the town of Groton still has an easement over the state's property for a sledding hill. It's now been filled with a building and, their huge mound of soil that they moved, but it's just one of those.
Must be snow anyway.
Yeah, we don't have any snow, but it was one of those interesting things that, there was this, and the kids always, from what I've heard, it was used as a sledding hill for a very long time.
Oh, fun.
And they literally put a bridge over it to connect it, back in the day. Now, what I would say now, because we have to meet current zones and things like that, this is all in a flood zone. And so if we were to put a crossing over it, it has to be like 6 feet out of the ground. So it's probably not very likely. And right now where this ends, the landform on the other side has changed enough that you basically land in a huge marsh.
Yeah.
So it's not on town property either. So, we're gonna focus all the money on town land at the moment, but we're not taking those out. They're staying in there, but not trying to cross it at this point.
So the ball fields are a little bit further down.
Yep, the ball, as we turn the corner here, it starts to widen up a little bit. And then that's the next sheet down. So
Okay.
now that's the end
Yeah.
of that cul-de-sac. That's the first ball field and the second ball field.
Okay.
So the expectation is the path will come somewhere around here, weave in between here. And that's the easement area that we have to connect that to Midway. Yep, so we'll wind back through here and connect.
This is the path you're talking about, putting little bumps on.
No, this would be the multi-use path, so it's like the bike path, roller skating,
Pushing your stroller.
pushing the stroller, jogging path.
Yeah, well, I think there's a concern about that even on any path, because any path, people are going to do that. And then if you have others coming along on skateboards trying to do little jumps, I think the safety issue that you mentioned earlier is a
Yep.
concern.
Yeah, and that would be, so just as this path here is like in that 8 to 10 foot wide width, that's what, wherever it turns off of here and goes in, that's what that path will be all the way to the
It gives you
neighborhood.
plenty of space for walking
For-
dogs or strollers.
Two-way traffic.
Yeah. All right. Well, one of the things that we just talked about at our last meeting is, so we have some NIPS money, the beautification committee has some NIPS money, and I had discussed with Greg Hanover about putting in a bottle fill station someplace in downtown Mystic to reduce people purchasing bottled water.
Okay.
And so he came up with an estimate, and that we haven't voted on it yet, but it was something that people were very, very interested in at the last meeting. And they actually came up, well, how about we do this at Sutton Park too? And how come, and I said, okay, well, guess what? We're having a meeting. So, what we have proposed to do, or what has the Public Works has proposed to do, is the downtown Mystic public bathroom, which is on Water Street. So it's a male bathroom, female bathroom, and then there's a small room over here, which is for the community policing.
Okay.
So they would install it, so the inner works would be inside that building. But and I'm assuming it would only be functional in the non-winter months, but you would walk up as you were heading down the street towards the bathroom, you would right towards the entrance of the Mystic Art Museum, there would be the bottle fill station there. It can be with or without a bubbler. Some people think bubblers are like horrifying, like they think they're disgusting, and I'm like, really? I used one just the other day, but they have them, like they have that exact piece of what you call it, equipment in the Groton Public Library. I just noticed it this week.
Yeah, we actually have a couple in the community center.
Yeah.
They're
So
fill
anyways,
stations.
so.
It actually counts the number of times that it's been used, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. So anyways, that was something that this committee had suggested. Is there, and actually a person who was at the meeting said, well, don't they have a water fountain at the public bathroom in Mystic? And I'm like, no. It's like, why not? I was like, I don't know. I wasn't a part of that whole thing, but that was a question. I just don't even know if that's politically correct anymore. I know the water fills are popular at the, when you're in a interior,
Yeah, I mean, that would certainly be
but-
something, the design plans for the bathroom are not complete.
Yeah.
But that would be easy to do.
I feel like it's in the plans.
Is it already in the
I think it
plans?
is for the bathroom. There's a little alcove
Uh-huh.
for men's and women's,
Yep.
or I don't even think
Yes,
they label it, just
right.
2 bathrooms,
Yes,
one for each.
right.
And then I think in the middle, there's a bottle fill.
Yeah, that would be.
But I'll
Okay.
double check.
All right, that's good.
Yeah.
And then my own other thing is, I personally have a lot of concerns about impervious asphalt and things, water runoff. I'm very concerned about removing trees and also places where pollinators can live. And do we have to have, turf grass, for crying out loud? If it's just if you're walking through it, obviously, if it's a field to play on, that's one thing, but is there something we can do other than turf grass? That is more friendly to our pollinator friends and to the, you don't have to put a lot of chemicals and things like that on it.
Like in a meadow that you would have.
I'm not really even thinking of a meadow. I'm thinking of I don't know if this would be correct for a meadow, but there's a lot of non-grass lawns out there nowadays. I don't know how much they cost, and I don't know how successful they've been, but all I know is I'm letting the clover come into my yard, and there's a lot of things, like a lot of positive aspects to
Right.
non-turf, perennial grasses.
What about right there where that fence line is?
So what we've talked about here,
That's all trees.
is there is a lot of trees and shade there. We're required within this zone to provide a buffer
Mhm.
between a public use and the residential use.
Mhm.
And so we'll probably be increasing that vegetation with some evergreens and things like that to provide that visual buffer for the neighborhood, so that they don't feel that they've got everybody in the public park looking in their backyards.
Okay.
So that's probably, we know we're required to put in a buffer. How we do it and what it means yet, we don't know,
Okay.
but that's likely to happen. Stormwater, I 100% agree with you on that. This is going to be a very challenging site to deal with stormwater.
Mhm.
What we've found out, again, I didn't know before, but the whole skate park
Mhm.
is here because
Mhm.
that used to be the pond. That was a skating pond
Really?
that the town had paved the bottom of, and it was a pond.
Mhm.
And there's a drain down here at the end that's still there. And when they finally, it wouldn't really stay as a pond, and they're having problems, they basically pulled the plug and repaved it and said, that'll be your skate park.
Mhm.
So we went from a pond to a skate park. And then likewise, somewhere over in here, there was another pond that has been since filled in as parks were built. And what we have remnants of that, you can kind of see it on this,
Yes, right.
right? This is really slow draining area to a drain that has standing water over it often and things like that. So we want to fix some of those issues. We don't have, the hard part here is we don't have a lot of topography change, so we don't have a lot of room to be able to get things we would normally put in for stormwater, the infiltrators and even the rain gardens, and things like that, because you have to have a pitch from a high point to a low point, and you have to have enough of a low point to hold the water, and then you still have to get the water out to the lowest point to let it flow out during a high event storm. And the river, the brook here is about 1.5 feet lower than where we are elevationally. So that's where we just have very little room. We'll be trying to do whatever we can to both minimize impervious cover and clean the stormwater that leaves the site before we let it discharge. But it is a very challenging site from that perspective.
But you don't have any like actual like perennial type things in there, do you? I mean,
Well, right now we have nothing, but will there be some perennial beds? Absolutely. Will probably not be too crazy
Right.
with perennials because maintenance is definitely a problem. Pollinator type gardens we can definitely talk about.
they're just some native plants and.
Well, most of what we would put in would be native or naturalized for sure. The pollinator type stuff, what we have done, we're doing a park right now for Waterford, and they really wanted a pollinator meadow adjacent to a pond that we're redoing. And the way we're doing it is almost like a planting bed. Instead of it just being a meadow with everybody thinks it's just everything intermixed. We kind of have a zone of this plant and this plant and this plant, so that at least from a maintenance perspective, Public Works or whoever happens to be maintaining it can go in and know everything in this area is the same thing. And if I see something that's different, I can pull it out.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what you need, like,
Later.
because when you get to a meadow where everything looks like a weed,
Yeah.
very, very shortly, everything is a weed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's very difficult to maintain a meadow, especially in a public setting. But I would say we can definitely create some pollinator habitats for the park. We're doing Boathouse Park for Stonington, and we have an area there that's a pollinator meadow. Same thing, kind of donate. There's a garden club that wanted to donate the funds and then mainstream it afterwards.
Yeah. Well, that's a nice synergy. Get everybody doing their part.
So definitely we can create that to be naturalized and native stuff that encourages good pollination. What things don't you like about the park?
The garbage situation. Every time I pick garbage around the park, I have to bring a few bags with me because I don't want to go through this garbage by the
Okay,
basketball court several times. So I think the number of cans to be increased if possible.
okay.
So there's more access to it.
Have you found the cans that are there to be overflowing or just not being used?
I never found them overflowing,
Okay.
but I always found them far from.
Far from where you needed them.
Yes,
So where do you find the most garbage?
I found along.
Is it along-
Yeah, along this, under those brush.
Really,
here,
along
yeah,
here?
and in the back of that.
Okay,
Right here, and even here, there are
Okay.
plenty of them.
all right. Good to
There
know.
are plenty of
Garbage.
trash cans or garbage.
No garbage.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
Good to know.
I would love there to, I am not a dog park fan, but I do love taking my dog places. And like when we were here, I was throwing the ball the whole time here while I was taking care of this. But I don't know what, without actually having a fenced dog park, which I don't really like. I don't know if there's anything else. Have you seen anything else in your workings, like a dog friendly area, or does it really need to be a fenced off?
For it to be the way most people use a dog park, it needs to be fenced off dog park. Otherwise, you can kind of make it's a big open area and you're not kicking people out.
Mhm.
And then it just depends on how much you want to do to encourage it, if you're putting out the doggy bags and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But we definitely heard, there's a lot of, what we've heard is the neighborhood people
Mhm.
already use the path, like kind of as part of their dog walking route. We've heard of a lot of people going to the ball fields, and that's where it's almost a dog park because it's so isolated and it's fenced on most of the way because of the athletic fields.
Mhm.
Yeah, We
But that can lead to problems too.
we actually just blocked the gates to the ball field.
Yeah,
It's completely fenced, because what we were found is people are letting their dogs in there, the dogs go to the bathroom, and then they don't pick up after them. So now the gates are locked all the time. The coaches have a key to get in. They unlock it, they lock it when they leave, and the dog owners, they're, if they're so lazy, they can't pick up after their dogs, they're not gonna lift their dog over a fence.
Yeah.
So that's how we had to address that problem.
so those dogs must be driving their dogs there too. So it's not somebody walking, because they could walk around.
No, the softball field is not fully fenced. The baseball field
It's fully,
is.
okay, so it's
And
baseball.
that's- So right now, the baseball field
Gotcha.
is, so we've probably stopped a problem in one area and just simply moved it
Mhm.
to another location, but that's,
We had a funny situation where we'd go here to water and there was consistently 2 or 3 bags of dog poop. And I'm like, wait. You
Yeah.
took the time
yeah.
to pick up after your dog, and you're gonna, like, was that a gift for us? I didn't understand
Yeah,
at all.
we see that all the time. I mean, if you're, then don't
If-
bother bagging it.
Right, that makes it
If you're not
worse.
gonna dispose it, because that's just, it keeps it around longer. So it's,
Yeah, you don't want it anywhere where kids are running around either. I mean, on
Even on
playing.
that walk path, that even along
Yeah.
that path.
There aren't, but there was, I would gather it all up and have to bring it over here to dispose of it. So,
They do that in all of the parks around Groton. I'm in those
Really?
parks every day. Yeah, they just let their dogs run free, even though you're supposed to have them like on leash and so forth. Nobody does it. They're all just racing through the woods.
I
over
do
by
that too.
BB Pond.
But she's got a very good recall and I always pick up after her, but that's just me.
Would this be a possible area for a sculpture walk? If they put the plan and just put the pads down, so we could rotate again, add to the
Yeah,
what we're talking about.
yeah, if you have a nice circumscribed area like that, I think you could do that, yeah.
And do that, again, it's like people, I just found the Quonic River walkway area. And
That's a real gem over there.
people find
Sure.
out the same thing. They could, that's a nice walk with the stream and you can have your kids play while you walk. And if the kids are old enough, you can trust them for a few minutes by themselves. or
But I think
whatever.
the first area we want to pick to do something with is Route 1 and Route 12, because it's such a disaster now.
Well, it's a disaster, but if we're putting if we put pads down now, we could
Yeah.
start to, well, let's get it in step 1.
Also nice to have it in a park.
Yes. Well,
Perhaps
just,
to have one at the entrance and then kind of lead you in for a couple.
are the pads at Deland is a standard size that we could,
Yeah, they pretty much are.
so would that
About
be
4 feet square, let's say, something like that.
Well, what we've done for some municipalities is, if the municipality wants public art and a sculpture or something like that is what's defined, we have located like the best places for where those sculptures can go. And in some cases, just left it empty and let the fill it in later. Other cases, like in Mansfield, in Mansfield Center, we wrote like an RFP for sculptors and like the town went out to bid and said, hey, we want it to, here's the historical influence that we wanted to represent. This is what we want these things to do. And then went out for artists to submit their proposals.
Oh.
And then put in permanent pieces that were geared towards a theme.
Mhm.
And
It was a historical thing up there.
for Mansfield, it was historical because it was very interestingly enough, they had this going down a complete side path, but they were the silk capital of the world for a while.
Oh, yeah.
And basically every family in Mansfield had fruit trees and silkworms that they raised
Really?
themselves. And then they formed a collective co-op to make the first silk mill kind of in Connecticut.
No kidding.
And so anyways, one of the big pieces of sculpture is just it's like an 8-foot tall thimble. It's like the end of or not a thimble, it's the eye of a loom. So that was part of the overall theme of that area, and we brought that into the public art.
So what would be the theme here? Would
I don't
be
know
the
yet.
Indian plain of Indians, you had Indians that lived, I guess, in that lower line area.
It could be all of that. Yeah, it could be, pre-colonial, it could be a sail from that could be somewhere else. But it could have, Groton specific things. It could be somehow, related to the history of Groton. It could be pre-colonial. It could be all of the above. One of the things we're still trying to learn more about is the name Sutton Park itself. From what we've heard, it was named after a family that sounds like died in a tragic accident. And so but that's a story that none of us know. We just know the name. So we want to bring that. I don't think we want necessarily a sculpture for that, but we're trying to figure out what that theme is going to be. And obviously there was at one point there was an idea to kind of, the skate park is kind of one of the big draws of this park. And so does that become part of the theme as well? And proving, one of the things I should probably ask a question, like this front entry, I don't know if any of you have driven in here recently. But to me, this is not necessarily an appealing exposure, right? Is your first, you're welcoming.
So that's a good spot for something pretty.
Something pretty, yeah. Yeah. And there's the same thing, there's a large, couple of large trees there, kind of overgrown. This one's heaving all the concrete, so we have to assess all of that and figure out what's the best to replace it. But especially from aesthetics, and then especially from kind of the beautification that you guys are interested in doing, we just wanted to know what can we do to work with you, definitely not work against you. We wanted to make sure there wasn't some grand plan of, oh, we're going to redo this whole thing, we're all set to go, and then find out we're working in opposition.
I appreciate that.
So what's the time frame for all of this?
Good question. We are trying to get our concepts for the park done within the next month. And then we'll be going back to kind of different user groups and presenting those concepts, taking more feedback on them, refining things. And then we go through the permitting process, which is a couple of months, and then into the bidding process. So the one nice thing of this is there's a lot of, the money's already been appropriated for all of the uses. We don't know if those uses, how that correlates to the actual design elements yet, but the money, there's a lot of money in hand ready to go. So it's really as fast as we can get the design done, permitted, out to bid. The hope is to be, I know the skate park would like to see some of the improvements happening yet this year. I think that's going to be a very difficult accomplishment, but definitely next year we'll have improvements starting.
So we can plant on this.
You can
side
keep
there.
planting here all summer. Yeah. And every time you're out there, you can think about, what do we really need?
It's funny though, because I mean, I know you guys are like saying, I mean, you can't really see there's a park there, but I kind of like that privacy. I gotta say, I kind of like that privacy. I mean, is there a way to leave some privacy or a more well-tended privacy, but also make sure that people know that this is Sutton Park?
It could be. That's what we're here to
Yeah.
ask that question.
Once again, I don't want to be the complainer.
It's not at all. Because
Yeah.
it could be right now, but we're basically saying it could be anything. Right. And
Right.
we're not trying to prescribe what it should be.
Yeah.
It's really what do you, and even you guys could all collectively say, we want it clear cut, don't do anything but grass. And we might come in and put a berm in, because there's a lot of different
Yeah.
groups that we're hearing from.
Yeah.
And so it's not necessarily the end all answer, but we want to know what you guys
Yeah.
individually and collectively think. And so
That's a very watery area, though. It tends to
Yeah.
water.
this whole,
In the center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not
Not
necessarily
there.
right there.
well, this is a berm, right? So this is that, if anything, it contributes a little bit because the water, it doesn't let water flow
Yeah, right.
anywhere.
Right.
it dams everything up.
Oh, that's too bad.
Um, but
When you
knowing,
do this, you're gonna do the whole thing, like you're not gonna, so obviously, since you're trying to maybe work the bathroom and you can't do the bathroom before the whole plan is done.
No, the plan is to do all of it at once.
Get the whole plan out and then.
Yes, yes.
yeah, and they might be broken up construction wise a little
Yes,
bit,
right.
because like there's the fun, Public Works says, well, the bathroom, once they know where it can go, like it's gonna be probably a standalone construction project, but then everything else around it, and it gets complicated because we have to tie into septic and
Yes,
water and all those
yeah.
sort of things, and that's gonna tear up
Last
other
thing you want
things.
to do is build something, kind of finish it, and then have to tear part of it up because you're doing
Right.
something else. So there's
Yes, yes, yes.
coordination.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, you
all
can't
of
jump the
those
gun.
Wherever the signage is going to end up, there or somewhere else, it would be nice to have access to water, because right now, we have to carry these big jugs of water and park, not very safely on the road, or go all around and then walk through the water to the middle of the park to go to the water. So that's not easy to do.
The sign, you can barely see it. So
Yeah.
No,
I don't think it's gonna be there permanently.
no,
Just
but if we
the-
plant something, we
Yeah,
still have to water.
Right,
So-
wherever the sign is, if it's possible to get water.
So what are
Yeah.
you planting there that needs watering?
Well, we have annuals
Yeah.
because it's such it's like a container, a big container basically, and it's not very deep. I don't know exactly the way it was built.
Yeah.
But it looks like, there is
soil was-
either
it's not
a ledge
great.
somewhere about 15 inches deep.
Okay,
And then, so we have perennials. We have ornamental grasses that are doing well.
yeah,
In the back of the sign.
Yeah.
But in the front, we wanted more colors and
Yeah.
some
so it's the
annuals.
annuals that need more water.
Exactly. The annuals we need to water very regularly, and that's a chore. a
We
real
tried
chore.
perennials and they didn't,
Didn't
they.
take-
No,
Yeah,
no,
they're-
the perennials didn't
The
do too well
grasses
there.
do well there, though.
Grasses
The
do
grass
well, but
behind
they're
the
not
sign.
big, and so
They don't
they're
need
fine.
much.
behind,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
can't
You
put
could
them-
do
the-
the small ones. There's small, very pretty, bright yellow ones and
Mhm.
really orangey, small, petite grass.
I just don't know, I've never had everything I've planted die. I mean, even, like, I'm like, there's some things
Yeah.
in there that's not
Yeah,
the soil.
the soil is kind of.
Yeah.
Well, because that's where, one of the things I would say a lot of times we try to avoid plants that need watering,
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
know.
right? So that you're
Yeah.
not out there having to water
Yeah,
them all the
exactly,
time.
Yeah.
And that annuals is a bit of the exception because you're almost forced to take care of them.
Yeah.
But that'd be the question of, do you want to, if you're maintaining this, right? And let's say the sign moves wherever, but now to make it more visible is 4 times as large.
Mhm.
Do you want to be watering something 4
Oh,
times that large?
certainly not.
But also we had to make sure we were having lower things too.
Right, 'cause the
You know,
sign-
you can't, because it's sign,
Yeah.
yeah, so there's plenty of, I mean, as long as we knew there was going to be good soil and good drainage.
Yeah,
I think obviously having some perennials or even just ground covers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Would be great, but
Yeah.
right now, that's not really the case.
okay.
Definitely the sign, like you said, 4 times as long would be much better if it was larger.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's one of the things we're gonna struggle with. As you are, I mean, we obviously have all the signage with Grosso, this signage, there's a limit of how much signage we can put on one piece of property, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, even Grosso's sign is on the town property. So that counts against us.
But so
Hmm.
at our last meeting regarding something totally different, a resident had suggested putting up like for the Esker Point Beach concerts, they have the canvas sign and it's up in front of the Paquonic Plains
Oh,
Park,
right, yeah.
like having a temporary sign that could be changed a couple times a year. I have no idea how much that costs, but to focus on something maybe that's happening, or if you don't go to the expense of this kind of a stationary thing, could you put something up and then change it out once a year, or have something, if, I know that there's gonna be things planned there as far as gatherings for bicycles, or I don't know what, some kind of, there might be things, events that you might, I don't know. Somebody had suggested it and I thought, that's an interesting idea to have. I don't know how much it costs to have a canvas sign printed up. I know it's more of a temporary kind of a thing,
Right.
but if maybe it could be moved around. It, the one down at Quantic Plains Park, it's just on two things that are,
Yeah, I mean, there is a
Post.
permanent sign there,
um,
but then there's also, community groups will reach out
Right.
to us.
Yeah.
Like there's a,
I think baseball registration. or
yeah,
something.
and
yes,
Black History Month, there was a banner up. And
right.
So, and you're right, as we get closer to the concert
Yeah.
series, we will put up
Put
the
that up.
concert schedule up
Right.
there, and that stays up there most of the
Yes.
summer.
Yeah, right,
But
right.
there are, at other times during the year, there's different banners, but there is a permanent sign kind of right out by the entrance.
Yeah. But I mean, what if you just had, it just said nothing super fancy, like the wayfinding signs that I know are expensive and like just a plaque on the front, the big one though.
Yeah.
And then underneath you could put you could change out
So
the,
have the ability for temporary signage.
yeah.
I hadn't thought about it. Yeah. I mean, again, it's a very highly visible area, so I know that both schools try to do that with their little LED board,
Mhm.
announce what's going on, but,
Right.
but it might be a worthwhile, we should talk about it at Park and Rec or other town.
Especially if somebody else, if they were putting on some type of event and they provided for the sign, you know what I mean?
Right.
So there's not the expense, but anyways,
Have to store it there.
what?
And the group sponsor would have to store.
That's
it.
right.
That's what happens, like even all the downtown banners over, in downtown, the average group pays for the banner and then
Yeah.
it's stored.
Anyways,
Yeah.
all
Yeah, interesting idea.
right,
Anything else? Good, bads, and difference.
I think it's gonna be great. I think it's being great because I think it's, even though I'm thinking of it as a big skate park kind of revamping. It's what you are saying is, it's not just the skate park, it's the whole park and let's make it comfortable for everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad to hear that the skaters are very involved and
Oh, yeah.
with their space. And that's great, because when you take ownership of something, it then
Yeah, it's, Chad and I have been to
At least three
meetings,
group meetings.
and it's really cool to kind of stand back
uh-huh,
from these guys and just watch how into,
Yeah.
trying to give them the space to be creative. It's really kind of neat.
Mhm.
And like one guy went home and I don't know if he bought it or if he had like all this modeling clay, and he comes in with a sheet of plywood, and he's like molded, so they've put a lot of time
okay,
and thought into this. And it's just that whole experience of seeing these guys that you wouldn't, well, I don't want to, I don't,
No, it's true.
It's-
There has been a negative connotation, especially
Yeah.
with skaters and,
yeah,
right? But you see how that they might not engage in the way that society norms want to all the time or something,
Mhm.
right? And then there's a negative connotation. This has been completely the opposite,
Yeah.
very highly engaged,
yeah,
huge group of, especially the first one, we
Yeah.
walked around and talked about good, bads of the skate park, and
Mhm.
it was a huge crowd of
uh-huh,
people, right? I wouldn't even say
Yes.
kids, it was
Yeah.
people of
Yeah.
all ages.
yeah.
And a couple of town councilors that came along and were like kind of blown away by the participation.
Mhm, mhm.
So are you thinking there'll be more pedestrian traffic on Fort Hill Road as a result of this? Do you think there'll be more people coming down?
I sure hope so. I mean, we want this to be used. And we want to, I know when the school was built, they built a path all the way up the driveway to the school. So we want to make it as safe and efficient for kids to be able to get to school. And if that means coming through the park or going, from the neighborhood back here over to Bluff Point. That's the whole goal, is to make it, more accessible and safe to get through town, that you don't have to be in a car.
and that's the number one need that has been identified in the recreational needs assessment is community connectivity.
Mhm,
And, by creating this multi-use path,
mhm.
connecting out to Midway Oval, to the trolley trail, to Industrial Drive, to Depot Road,
Mhm.
we're actually creating like this giant circle that people can either walk or ride on. And they're actually planning on closing the gap between, because right now the sidewalk stops by the driveway that goes into the community center. And there's no sidewalk from there all the way to the corner of Depot Road. And I think Greg Hanover, I think there's a plan to finish the sidewalk from that point all the way over to Depot Road. So you would have a continuous either on-road or multi-use path that, you know, people can get around
Yeah.
on. So yes, I would hope that more people would be traveling on Fort Hill Road.
I wish it would look a little better at times.
Well, yeah, so this is great. This is
It's gonna
great,
be
guys.
Fabulous, though.
And
It's
also-
very exciting.
Yeah, so it's, yeah, really nice. And I like this too. It's been a long time since I've had little kids, but there's a place you can get in on the shade. There's a place where you can have your snacks. And this one too. There's both of them.
There's two of them. We've talked about, this one is not in the greatest of shape, so
Uh-huh.
it definitely needs help.
Okay.
And one of the things we've talked about is as the skate park bleeds a little bit, it
Uh-huh.
might be bleeding in that direction.
Uh-huh.
This is used quite a bit by the skaters to be able to have their place of respite,
Mhm.
but it's, again, right now you have to leave the park,
Yes.
go around
Yeah.
the fence and
Yeah.
over, and you're
Yeah.
down at a different grade and you
Yeah.
visually can't see so
Yeah.
well. So
Okay.
the idea of taking that shade and maybe it stays somewhere in this area,
Yeah.
but also one of the things we've heard from Park and Rec staff is there's been some conflict by having two pavilions so close together that
Mhm.
are both rentable spaces. Sometimes people will try to rent this one and then go steal all the picnic tables from this one over here, or try to rent this one and pay the lesser fee and hope that nobody's renting that one. And so we might, even just move that use
Uh-huh.
someplace else,
Okay. Yeah.
but still incorporate shade and, the place to be able to
Yeah.
to watch and participate, skating without having to be like kind of totally in the skate park or
Well,
totally.
you have that age too of young people who, little kids, they want their parents there, and older kids don't need their parents there. And then you have that middle group. It's like their parents want to be there,
Yep.
but they don't really want their parents there.
Yep.
So,
Give them
you
a
know.
place they can watch, but not feel
Yeah,
like they're
but not
being
feel-
watched.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's-
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and the
think-
playground, I think you mentioned at the beginning, playground gets redone. And we don't know, we've had some input about, is it a natural playground, right? Do we do log structures and kind of make it more natural?
Mhm.
Or the ropes thing is a big popular thing now too, these like rope pyramids.
Yeah.
So probably some combination of those. And where that goes and how it fits is up in the air too, like it could end up right here, but it'll probably move locationally as everything else.
Yeah, so
finds-
basically it's kind of a blank slate except for this and
To a
probably.
degree, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, in my perfect world, I would take the road and get it,
Uh-huh,
so that it's out of the middle of the park, but we
Yeah.
don't have that kind of money, so.
yeah.
And you're gonna have just one basketball court? Did you say there might be another one?
I think in the plan, we will show where in the future could a second one go? And then it'll be a budget question if we can really afford that now, or if that's a future phase.
Mhm.
Want to play pickleball court in the back. Well, that's pickleball court. You're a pickleball? Oh, come on.
No, it's just.
Everyone wants.
Everybody wants them though.
Everybody
No,
wants
people
them.
mention like beautification community, it's like, well, there's some areas they might be putting gardens, but we really want pickleball.
Yeah, I'd rather.
So
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had your.
We've heard a lot of the pickleball.
Yeah, not me. I want the garden. I don't want the pickleball. I also heard that the big increase in ER visits were due to people my age
Plenty pickleball.
going to go playing pickleball. Yes, and injuring themselves,
Good for
pulling a muscle.
business.
That's
Good for the hospital.
right. That's right. Well, I really appreciate how much expertise you're both and thought you both are bringing to
Very
this, and it's gonna be, it's gonna be
Yeah, well,
exciting.
this is kind of a, I want to say transformational change, I
Hopefully.
think,
Yep.
to this park, and that's really what we're looking for. And, because this park has been disinvested for years and years, and it shows, everything has come together, and so we want to get it right and want to get as much public input as we can. And we've got some great designers working for us, and
Yes.
so
So how do we follow the evolution of this? Is there a site, the town site will have that? Or how does that?
There,
We don't have it up on the
yeah,
Greater Groton yet. We can do that. And then likewise, just because all the groups that we're talking to, so I'll send you an email as we're having other meetings and we'll probably send you PDFs and we can come back to you again as we develop plans.
There's a public, I'd have to look back at all the different deliverables, but I think, I can't recall if there was like a public.
It was a public input session where we're kind of doing it in a whole bunch of little pieces,
Right,
but there
right.
is another one. Yeah, as we do the designs, we'll
Right.
definitely have more public input to allow people to see the plan and make comment on the plan.
Right, I think there, I don't know if there's 2, 3, or 8
Yeah.
different concepts.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's 8, yeah, sure, yeah. But there's a couple.
Yeah, I mean,
Different
there'll be a
people want
couple of
different things,
Right.
you know.
Well, what we typically do, again, from a public perspective, we'll work up those multiple concepts. We work those through not the entire public, but a vetted, like the stakeholders, right? And to vet those out and then try to narrow that down to what we think is the preferred based on all the stakeholder input to let the whole public kind of see. But the public is aware and welcome to come to any of those meetings throughout the process.
Yep.
But what we found sometimes if you go to a full-on public with 2 totally different plans, it can be difficult to choose between the 2 because you get 50% of both.
Yeah.
But we'll see where this shakes out and how things fit. Because there's also, we're limited with space, right? We're not gonna take the whole skate park and put it over here. We know
Right.
it's staying
Yeah.
here.
Right.
So it's really just, it's kind of minor tweaks for how everything fits together.
Okay. Well, you guys have any other questions
Sure.
or let these gentlemen go and get the dinner?
Along the road there, not the, along with one?
Yeah.
Would they be lighting as well? If it's for people walking, more
So-
towards walking, is there
Good,
plan to?
good question. So the pathway, the multi-use path, part of that process will have lights along the entire path. And the skate park gets some upgraded lighting, and then we'll be looking at how do we upgrade the rest of the lighting in the park to
Mhm.
a acceptable standard, I guess is what I would,
Mhm.
not necessarily uplighting the
Right.
trees, but
Right.
typical park lighting, path lighting.
One thought that occurs to me with the conflict between these 2 pavilions
Mhm.
is, because Cindy's talking about trying to save the trees down here. What if you moved one of the pavilions over to this area? There would be such a distance between them that people wouldn't want to be carrying picnic tables
Yeah.
that far.
Yeah, it's very possible. Yeah, that's one of the things we are concerned about is just how hidden this is
Yeah.
back here,
Yeah.
that it gets. Yeah, it gets hard to see.
Yeah, so that,
So things happen that. we-
yes, that maybe to.
And
So-
the closer to the road. Yeah. You want to go to a picnic area where you're.
Yeah.
You know, and you have a toddler who could.
Could run right out of the.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we'll be looking for where those appropriate areas. We've heard there was horseshoe pits. People want the horseshoe pits back. Yeah.
Nobody had used them in years.
Right, right. Well, you gotta remember that, because sometimes people will say, oh, I'd like that, but then.
Yeah, it's like literally like 2 weeks after we took them out. Oh, we gotta have horseshoe pits. And I'm like, it's been here for 10 years, 12 years, and I've never seen a single person use those horseshoe pits.
Right.
Can somebody remind me, because you're talking about not having any trash containers around here. The last meeting that I was at, we were talking about local businesses decorating trash containers. Just
Well, we're talking about using our NIPS money for very specialized trash containers, and then if that took off, they maybe local businesses were going to do that. The limiting factor there is it's one blacksmith. And it's not a production thing, so he
Yeah.
only has a limited amount of time and space that he can spend. So that's, if we can clone him. But that's something, I mean, I always do think would be nice to have some kind of, we're looking at these kind of specialized trash cans that are kind of a combination between art and trash containers. So, you know, anyways, all right, it's 7:26. So I think, is there a motion to adjourn?
It's,
Okay, at 7:26. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Yeah, thank you
This
very
meeting.
much.
Stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, we do those all the time.
There.
Yeah.
These are peaches.